instructive. I pray, Father, that this city will continue on the path that you have now led us on, that we'll continue to see growth, smart growth in many different areas, a place that is safe for our families and for our grandchildren. Thank you for everyone that's here tonight. I pray for the citizens, and may we always be a part of a country where the government is for the people and by the people and of the people. We pray these things in the wonderful name of our dear Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Mann, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Everyone will face the flag. Put your hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, if everybody will be seated. You guys should do the GC things. Okay. All right. So now I want to call to order the Finance Authority, the Housing Authority, and the City Council Redevelopment Agency meetings. And if you'll call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Okay. Just a minute. Okay, this would be Financing Authority Director Mann.
Present.
Marcus. Cilio.
Here.
Chairman Smith. Vice
Here.
Chairman Smith, I'm sorry. Chairman Paris.
Here.
We have a quorum, and that is for both financing and housing.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the Financing Authority minutes.
I second that.
It's unanimous. The Financing Authority meeting is now adjourned. We really have to do this, huh? Once a year. All right, good. We'll now conduct the Housing Authority meeting.
I move that we approve the Housing Authority minutes.
I second that.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. The Housing Authority meeting is now adjourned. And am I missing one? Okay, and then we can go on to the regular meeting. Good, thank you. We have some presentations tonight. We have the Antelope Valley High School Navy, what is it, junior ROTC, or it's JROTC, so what is that? And you all here? Come on down. Okay, who do we have? You're Victoria? You're Johanna. I'm Rex. How are you? Jesus? And do we have Victoria Dutton? And
she wasn't able to make it tonight.
Sorry.
She wasn't able to make it tonight.
What about Adam?
He's right here. So.
Oh, I'm sorry, Adam. I have my back to you. Thank you. I'm Rex. And Cruz?
Cruz Gallardo wasn't able to make it either.
Okay. And you're Commander Martin Jones?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. This is go ahead and turn around. Yeah, everybody. This is Commander Jones of the U.S. Navy. He's retired, and he does the junior ROTC, Navy ROTC program, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. There's a difference. Right. And today we're honoring Johanna Melendez, who's right here, who is a senior at Antelope Valley High School and a member of the Antelope Valley High School Navy Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps. Ms. Melendez has been accepted to the Naval Academy Preparatory School in Newport, Rhode Island, a 10-month academy focusing on physics, chemistry, and calculus. At the conclusion of that, she will be admitted into the United States Naval Academy. And so, therefore, the Lancaster City Council commends Johanna Melendez for her achievement of this milestone and her desire to serve her country. Johanna, do you know what's in store for you this summer? This is going to be the most difficult summer of anybody's life, isn't it? I can't tell you how thrilled we are. That is truly a remarkable accomplishment. Now, if you're still functioning at the end of the summer, we want you to come back. We'll give you another one. Okay. And we have Mr. Pinto.
Yes, sir.
Is that right here?
Jesus Pinto.
Jesus Pinto is a senior at Antelope Valley High School and a member of the Antelope Valley High School Navy Junior Reserves Officer Training Corps, whereas Jesus has worked very hard over the past 4 years to excel in school and in the Navy ROTC program, whereas the result of his diligence, Jesus has received a full-ride 4-year Navy ROTC scholarship to UCLA. Wow. You are going to have a wonderful time. Congratulations. That's truly remarkable. Thank you. And this is Adam here?
Adam, he's right here, sir.
Okay, let me get the... Okay. You're not going to have such a wonderful time. This is Adam Gallardo is a sophomore at Antelope Valley High School. That means he's in the 10th grade, and a member of the Antelope Valley High School Navy Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps. Whereas Adam has been working hard to distinguish himself both in school and in the ROTC program, Adam has been accepted to a 7-day National Science Technology Engineering Math Seminar at Embry-Riddle Aeronautic University in Daytona Beach, Florida. No, you're going to have a good time. I got confused. And we commend you for that. That's a great accomplishment. Now, and we'll see you in 2 years when you're on the way to the academy, right? That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for coming. And I guess I should give these to you.
I'll be glad to pass them on. Thank you,
Okay,
Mayor.
great. So here we have Victoria Dutton. We have Cruz.
Okay.
And, well, this is for you.
Don't know that I deserve that.
Well, actually, we think you do deserve it, because it's because of people like you that we're able to have young people accomplish things like that. These are trying times, and it really is people who give their heart and their soul to these young people that make a difference. And on behalf of Lancaster, we'd like to commend you.
Thank you so much.
And this is a proclamation where the public works, infrastructure, facilities, and services are of vital importance to the health, safety, and well-being of the city. Such infrastructure and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals, engineers, administrators representing the city of Lancaster who design, build, operate, and maintain the systems essential to serve our citizens. It is in the public interest for the citizens and civic leaders of this city to be informed about and maintain progressive interest in the public work needs and programs of the community. We are proclaiming this week, May 17th through the 23rd, I guess that's really next week, right? The Public Works Week. And on behalf of the Public Works Department, Randy Williams will be accepting the proclamation. Thank you, Randy. And thank you for keeping us running. Okay, moving on. We want to remind everybody that all speaker cards must be filled out and submitted prior to the agenda item being called. This same rule applies if you wish to speak on non-agendized items at the end of the meeting. Following this process will allow us to conduct a timely and orderly meeting. Thank you. Should we move these things around? You want to just go through the consent calendar?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Would it be appropriate to make a motion to excuse Councilmember Marcus? I don't think we've done that yet.
Okay, second it.
Vote. And it's unanimous. Thank you.
I'll move that we adopt the agency consent calendar.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Vote.
If you'd like to.
I need one more vote.
It's unanimous. Okay.
If you want, then we can do the consent calendar and skip R&B 1 and then move the other two forward.
You want to skip R&D? We're going to skip R&D 1, move to the City Council consent calendar, and then we can get to the reason all you folks are here, and so you can get home at a reasonable hour, hopefully.
Mr. Mayor, if we can pull CC 8, CC 9, because somebody would like to speak on that. So I'll move that we, unless there's anything else to be removed by any other council member, I'll move that we adopt the consent calendar as currently comprised.
I will second that.
Here's the card for CC 8, CC 9. Should we talk about them at the same time? Okay.
We'll take up CC 8 and CC 9 after we take up
PH 3. Your pleasure. Either the CA 1, 2, and 3 or PH 3.
You want to do the general plan? You guys have a preference, general plan amendment?
We were thinking of moving the two that everybody's here to speak for, move PH 3 and then C1, 2, and 3
Well,
forward.
let's get a show of hands. How many people are here for the general plan amendment? Can you raise your hands?
K and 60th.
Okay.
I have about 26 speaker cards for that one.
And how about for the park situation?
I have less.
Okay, we'll do the general plan first. That would be PH 3. Let's open the public hearing, and we'll hear the staff report from Planning Director Brian Ludicky. Now, I'm sorry, are we doing do we want the speaker cards before he starts or just before the first speaker?
No, sir, you should go ahead and hear Mr. Ludicky's report.
And then get the speaker cards?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Paris, members of the City Council. The item that's before you at this time is a request for a general plan amendment and a zone change involving the northwest corner of Avenue K and 60th Street West. The request that is in front of you is to redesignate the site from its current general plan designation of urban residential to commercial, and to rezone it from its current zoning of R7000 to commercial plan development. This particular request was originally filed with the city in March of 2005. It is one of several general plan amendment requests that were allowed to be filed by the City Council after commencement of the general plan revision was begun. The city has completed an environmental impact report process on this project. It has gone through the city's planning commission. They considered this case on the 20th of April. They recommended to you approval of both the general plan amendment and the zone change. From staff's perspective, the key issue on this is whether or not this site is appropriate for commercial development. And if you look up here at the magenta and boxed area, that is the area that is under consideration. And if you look at the area around it, which contains a number of different identified projects, these are projects that over the last 5 to 7 years have been approved and in some cases constructed within the vicinity of this project site. In fact, from staff's analysis, there are approximately 3,500 dwelling units that have been approved or constructed within the mile surrounding this site since about 2002. This aerial shot a couple of years ago also demonstrates the construction that has occurred around this particular property. The general plan of the city does call for continued residential growth within this general area. And from staff's perspective, we feel that given that this site is central to the growth pattern that is occurring on the west side, we think that it is an appropriate location in the long term for commercial development. At 22 acres, it is adequate in size to accommodate a range of potential commercial tenants. It is located at the intersection of two major roadways. In fact, 60th Street West in this location is part of the city's regional arterial circulation system. The city's general plan contains policies which call for the promotion of regional, community, and neighborhood retail development that is needed to serve growing retail demand generated by population growth. The city's general plan also calls for an attractive hierarchical pattern of commercial development to serve regional, community, and neighborhood functions with maximum efficiency and accessibility. We believe that this particular site meets the criteria that is called out in the general plan and is therefore an appropriate site to approve for commercial development. The applicant on this project has filed also with the city a conditional use permit for development of a commercial center at this location. That is currently before the Planning Commission as far as review of the development layout. We would recommend to you that you adopt Resolution 09-36, certifying the environmental impact report, adopting the required environmental findings, and amending the general plan from urban residential to commercial, and that you also introduce Ordinance 923, rezoning the subject property from R7000 to CPD, commercial plan development. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on this case.
Any questions?
I don't. I may have some later.
Mr. Liddy, could you just, you did mention that this is, the question of the evening is this an appropriate corner for commercial use? In the staff reports, it notes that there's also to introduce an ordinance to rezone it to CPD, commercial plan development. I know many speakers tonight will want to discuss the details of the proposed commercial project. Could you just go over a little bit about what our decision is for tonight, and then when the appropriate time frame would be to discuss the details of a proposed commercial project, and when the best time for input would be.
Certainly. The issue that's in front of the planning or the city council tonight is simply, should the general plan be amended from residential to commercial on the subject property, and concurrent with that, should the zoning be changed from R7000 to CPD? Those are the issues that you are really deciding as a city council. The issue of the actual development layout and the development plan is in front of the Planning Commission right now. They continued that matter over for 60 days at their April 20th meeting. They will take it up again on June the 15th. They directed the applicant to address several design concerns that they had. We expect that the applicant will come back to staff shortly with proposals to deal with those issues. Staff will review them and make a recommendation to the city or to the Planning Commission. The appropriate time, if people have concerns or questions regarding the physical development proposal for the site, would be at the June 15th Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you.
I can't tell from looking at the map, how many houses actually are contiguous to the proposed development?
There are several hundred that are...
What I'm asking is that actually butt up against it.
Oh, on the west side of the site, I believe that there are approximately 10 to 12.
And any mitigation for those 10 to 12 houses, would that take place at the CUP?
The actual physical development requirements, such as walls or hours of operation, would be part of the conditional use permit.
What about compensating them?
Pardon?
What about compensating them?
As far as that's concerned, that would be more of a private matter between the developer and the various property owners.
Okay. But in any event, that's not something we deal with tonight.
Not as part of the general plan amendment or zone change.
Thank you. Okay, let's go with the speaker cards.
Your pleasure. We have 22 cards in favor, 19 letters in favor. We have 7 cards in opposition and 2 neutral. So, however would you like to take them?
Well, what would be fair? I guess we should do the opposition first.
Well, I know at Planning Commission we had allowed the applicant to speak first and those in favor, and then those opposed, and then the applicant had a chance to rebut. We could do that as well.
I don't think
We don't have an applicant?
We have a representative of the applicant here, if you'd like him to speak. Did you want
Yeah, well, maybe we ought to just follow normal. Like
I'm
what-
not confident that that would be appropriate.
Okay.
The reason why I'm not, because then we would be giving the applicant two shots at it, and the people opposed to it would only have one. And,
Sure.
And so that's why I'm concerned.
Here's the cards in opposition,
Okay.
and then here's the cards that are neutral.
But I do agree with you that we probably should go with the applicant first and then hear the objections later. So let me, the ones in favor first. And great. Thank you. So Shirley Ball? Come on down. We won't bite. Well, Ron might, but I won't.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, you do have 3 minutes in which to present your concerns. When you approach the podium, you'll see a green light come on, and when you have 30 seconds left, the yellow light will come on, and when your time is up, the red light will come on. We ask that you be considerate of the allotted time to allow everyone to have their fair share at the microphone as well. Thank you.
Before you start, I want to be clear, we're not accepting any more cards on this issue, so if somebody has one out there, they should give it to us this is your last opportunity. Okay, good. Ms. Ball, go ahead.
All right. My name is Shirley Ball. I have lived here 15 years. And when we moved out here, we considered ourselves way far out. But we were displaced from the 94 earthquake. And where I live, I understand there's 500 houses. Some of us do not drive. Some of us prefer not driving a long distance to get a hamburger or to go get some milk. And it's quite a ways from where our bus stop is. And there are a number of people on my block that can't walk that far. But I fortunately have a scooter. And if you put this shopping center, I can go on my scooter and go up there and shop. And I'd be very pleased to spend my money in Lancaster, where you people need the taxes, instead of driving all over the place trying to find a place to park in the heat. This way it would be more convenient. Some of the people on my block have young children, and I know they would appreciate being able to take their children up to shop. And even if you put a Walmart down in Kay, we'd be more than pleased to go there. It would relieve all the parking uptown and trying to combat all the people at once. So I think this is the best idea I've heard since I moved to Lancaster. And it would make me very pleased. In fact, some of us older people may have to move to get closer to shopping centers. This way, it would be very convenient, and I hope it goes through. That's all I've got to say, and I'm cheering.
Thank you. William Ball?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I come before you bearing a list of about 6 of my neighbors who, for infirmity reasons, can't make the meeting. But they are all in favor of this shopping center, or proposed shopping center. A lot of us are getting darn tired of driving 6 miles to get a hamburger, to get a pump a little bit of gas in our automobiles. This proposed shopping center would be an ideal thing. What the city of Lancaster does not need is any more bloody houses that are going to sit empty. You got enough empty houses as it is right now. Why reserve a plot of land for residential, ultimately to build on it with homes, may be occupied and may not even sell? I thank you for your time. I just wanted to be very brief.
Thank you. Colette Stanley? Colette Stanley? David Sinclair?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Didn't want to reiterate what Mr. Ludicky said, but I just wanted to point out that it is a consistent land use to have this made commercial, because in the general plan we do have a goal 17, to establish a variety of land uses to serve which serve to develop Lancaster into a balanced and complete community in which people live, work, shop, and play. And under that, Objective 17.1, designate adequate land for a balanced mix of rural and urban residential and non-residential uses. This hasn't been approved yet. It's very close language to what the existing general plan is. This is what the Citizens Advisory Committee came up with for the 2030 general plan, which we'll be voting on soon. But there was a majority of people in that group that did believe that we need a balanced mix of uses, that we need to have commercial near where people live, so that people don't have to be driving across town to do their shopping. And although we didn't address specific parcels in that group, I think it's well known that the 60th Street West corridor is the main north-south corridor. It's the main arterial for the west side. And in order to provide a balanced mix of uses in the community, we need to have commercial on the west side, commercial on the east side, commercial in the center part of the city. And it's very fitting with planning principles. If you read books like The Death and Life of Great American Cities by Jane Jacobs, she talks about having cities having several downtowns. Obviously, our city's not quite that big yet, but she talks about how you need to develop different downtowns, because as the area grows and urbanizes, that people need to have their own sense of community within their part of the city, rather than having just one downtown that everything's focused on. I've met with a lot of the opposition out there. I appreciate the opportunity that I had to meet with Paul and Amelia Jennings and Dr. Don Garant, and had some very good discussions with these people. They're very good people, and we get along great, but we just agree to disagree on this issue. But I would encourage the council to please approve the general plan amendment and allow a balanced mix of uses throughout the city, not to mention the additional tax revenue and jobs that the center will provide. Thanks.
Thank you. Dennis McWilliams?
Mayor, Council, thank you. I am in favor of the proposed project. I think it would be great for the city to create jobs. Many of my friends in construction are out of work, and thank you.
Thank you. Is it Josephine Klasem? I'm having trouble reading it. Good.
Hi, Mayor and Council. I'm not from here, I'm from Sweden, so sorry my English might not be so good. But I just relocated from Sweden to here. My name is Josephine, and what I noticed about the area is some shopping would be missing within walking distance. I often take my stroller, and I like to walk in the area, but there's nothing there to walk to, and I would prefer to go shopping and put my groceries underneath the stroller and just walk and buy whatever I need, and do that maybe like once a day, or not a big shopping. Also an area where people can meet up, or like in a restaurant, or just somewhere to walk besides just around the block. Also, we just relocated from Sweden, so job opportunities be perfect. We have one car, and that would take us opportunity to have both of us to like search for jobs in the area, or to start from somewhere. So I was happy to hear that there's planning on changing zoning, and actually have plans to build. Sorry about my baby.
It's okay.
In the area. So I appreciate that I can come here and tell my point of view. And that's pretty much
Thank you very
my
much.
point of view. Thank you so much.
Okay. Hey, bring that baby back. Is it Brian Vantel?
How you doing today?
Good, how are you?
My name is Brian, and I agree with the project a lot. Have people in construction, need jobs. It's going to promote a lot of jobs for people around here, and it'll help our community out. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Jessica Zinner? Jessica Zinner? Michael Parker? Michael Parker?
Mayor, Council, I'm in favor of the program. Yeah. I think it would bring some good revenue instead of houses like previous you heard that there's a lot of houses that are empty, and the proposed site for that shopping mall would be a good thing. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Trevor Zinner?
Sorry, my wife had to leave the...
I was going to say, did she chicken out? Or?
Yeah, the baby was getting a little loud, but I
Okay.
agree with what everyone said previously in the fact that it will bring jobs to the area. I manage a store, and I get plenty of people every day looking for jobs in retail. Also, I live down the street on L8 and 60th, and I believe that it would be nice to have something close by where we could go shopping, because when we want to make a trip, we have to go over to 10th Street, and it's not that far, but to save the gas and have the convenience of being down the street would be really nice for our area. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you very much. Caleb, is it Census? And correct me if I get these names wrong, which I'm sure I am.
Mayor, council members, there's two major reasons that I am in favor of this project. One being personal, and the fact that I've lived in the Antelope Valley since I was 2 and I'm now 30, so it's been about 28 years. Dominantly, I've lived on the west side of town between 45th and currently I live on 20th, and there is not a lot of malls, stores of this nature of the shopping center on the west side. We've always had to travel to 10th, to inside of 10th, even to Division, stuff like that, just to go shopping, buy a few items, even get gas. There's really not too many gas stations on that side of town. So as a personal aspect, it seems like, time saved is money saved. There's a lot of things personally that could come out of that for me personally, along with everything everybody else said. And the second reason is I work in construction personally, so I know that all the construction aspects of that, the jobs it's going to create, everything from the ground up, pretty much that's just jobs. I know there's maybe a few hundred, 1,000 jobs that are going to be in that shopping center alone, maybe, but there's probably thousands of people that will affect in this economy, which is horrible right now. That you can't just let go by, seeing that there's nothing on that side of town either, as people have said. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Rasmussen.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Michael Rasmussen. I've lived, in the Antelope Valley since 1990. I think this is a good project. I've seen some of the things that Palmdale has done as far as their development, bringing in restaurants and commercial, and I think for the tax base and everything, as well as the jobs and the economy, I support this project.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Is it Nick Guler?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Nick Geiler. Lived in the Antelope Valley for approximately 5 years, or on the west side of town for 5 years. I agree with everything that everyone's brought up previously. They're all great reasons for this development. However, I have a more personal reason for this development. I've commuted from the Antelope Valley to Los Angeles for the past 9 years. With this growth in businesses and our economy locally, I'm hoping someday to work in the Antelope Valley so that I can be closer to my family and not have to commute. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is it Douglas Champagne?
Yes, perfect. Mayor, council members, I'm in favor. Looking at the site up there, I think it's perfect. One thing no one's really addressed, everyone's addressed everything perfectly so far. I think that the idea of this last snowstorm, that now you have accessibility to something you can actually get to without having to drive. In Antelope Valley, we've all driven there quite a bit, where you have problems with people, the way they drive. Just go real quick to the store, get something to eat. With a snowstorm, you can simply just walk there. And I think that'd be a very convenient area. It's actually middle of nowhere. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is it Janice Niblick?
Hi, good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Janice Niblack, and I grew up in the Antelope Valley, and I live on the west side. I strongly support the proposed Lowe's CVS shopping center. We need more commercial centers on the west side of town. I work in the construction industry, and a lot of workers are currently unemployed. This project would create construction jobs when we really need them, and it will create permanent jobs for those that will be working in the stores. And then I also agree with everyone else with the convenience of shopping, not having to go all across town just to, get certain things. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Connie Weiram, thank you. Thank you for the help also.
My name is Connie Weiram. Hello, council members. I live within walking distance of the proposed shopping center. It is my understanding the center will host a CVS pharmacy, a home improvement store, casual dining, to name a few. This will allow me to shop close to my home, meaning I will drive less. Also, the center will provide Mandarin walkways, which will allow me to walk to the center for a bite to eat or pick up something I forgot while shopping at the grocery store in the center of the city. I ask that you vote yes and encourage people to walk more and drive less. Thank you.
Thank you. Arturo Weiram.
Yes, my name is Arturo Weiram. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and member of the City Council. I am in support of the proposed shopping center at 60th Street West and Avenue K. I understand it's expected to bring about 200 construction jobs and over 300 permanent jobs when it's built. It will also bring in additional sales tax revenue to the city. As far as I'm concerned, this is no-brainer. I urge you to change the land use to commercial so this project can go forward. Thank you. Also, I live close to 60th Street with Avenue K.
Thank you very much. I have somebody with no name from 43723 59th Street West. Now, I got to have a name. I can't call you.
First of all, good evening, Mayor Parrish, Vice Mayor Smith, council members. Must have forgot to put my name there. I am in favor of this for a few
You got to tell us who you are.
My name
Otherwise,
is
I have to call you Mr. Anonymous.
My name is Sheldon Bush.
Thank you.
And I'm in favor of this project for a few reasons. Recently purchased a home there and had to make many trips to Lowe's across town to fix it because, of course, it was a rehab home. And we do plan to rent out a lot of these rooms. There's 5 bedrooms, and it would be nice to put into the ad in the paper, close to shops. These are all conveniences. Secondly, I'm a member of Local 300 Laborers International. We have 380 members, and 70% of our members are on unemployment. So hopefully, for a short period of time the construction is going on, it can put some of my members' brothers to work. That's why I'm in favor of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Stern. Now this is a dad.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. My name is Richard Sturm. I also live on the west side. I'm in favor of the project also, just for the jobs it'll create. Also, I got small kids, so the quick run to the Lowe's or CVS pharmacy, there's always diapers to be had in the middle of the night or something if we forgot. I've been here since '93. I've seen a lot of growth, a lot of change. Finally grew up on the east side of Palmdale, and finally got to move when I had the kids. I wanted to go to the west side, and that's one thing I don't really see is shopping centers. Also Lowe's. I use Lowe's a lot. Go to 10th Street West and Avenue K. Be really nice to, put the kids in the stroller and go to Lowe's, get them out of the house. It's kind of hard to put them in the truck. As you can tell, I got a 3-year-old back there. So
not a good idea to put them in the truck. The back of the
it's
truck.
not that easy. He likes to do everything his own self. So, but it would be really nice to get more shopping on the west side. I run through San Francisco a lot, that canyon. Trips home from work, you're low on gas and you need to get gas. Well, you got to go to AMPM, which is on 60th and Avenue, was it M, between them and it'd be nice to stop there close to home. I'm within a block. I'm actually in between just west of 60th, between J and K. So it'd be really nice, especially walking around the neighborhood, have something to walk to, instead of looking at all the empty houses and wishing we could get rid of the one we have that we're upside down in and get one of them new ones that are just sitting there nobody's living in. But I guess that's not happening. So I'm in favor, and I'm sure Sophia is too, and well, she will be. So, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Stephanie Stern? I take it this is the 3-year-old.
Yes. Good evening. Thank you very much for letting me speak. I just wanted to reiterate what everybody was speaking about. I agree. I'm for the project. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I agree with the other mother. It would be so nice to have a place to walk my children other than just desert where I'm worried about snakes jumping out in front of me. And the tax benefits, the benefits of employment. I don't know how many kids I have in the neighborhood, teenagers and adults that are just looking for a job, and it would be wonderful to have more on our side of town. I feel that there's enough residents to keep the business flow, working accordingly. We have Antelope Acres that would benefit from this as well, and I'm for the project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is it Rhonda Gordon?
Oh, it's just that she left.
Oh, she left, okay. And Jody Champagne also left.
Can I call these out, just in case?
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, we have a number of cards, not the usual names that we have for non-agendized items, and it says the clerk wrote non-agendized, but I just want to make sure that they're not here for this one, and then we end up not. So if I call your name, could you tell me if it's for this item that we're talking about now, and whether you're opposed or in favor of, so we can put the cards in? Amber Goss, it's for something non-agendized item. Okay. And I can't even read this one. They live on Galander. Eric Boroshenso, not on this one. It's not agendized. Mike Scott.
I have two cards up there. One's non-agendized and one's concerning this project.
Yeah, okay, this is just the one that's non-agendized. And then Chantel Scott, non-agendized. Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure.
They knew what they were doing.
Well, they didn't write it down. She wrote it down. So I just double-checking.
Throwing the clerk under the bus. He did, didn't he?
Oh, boy, no respect.
Okay. These are the ones that don't indicate one way or the other. David Salcedo?
Yes. Yes, for this item.
Did you want to speak?
Oh, we're up.
Yeah, you're up.
I'm probably one of the people here that's going to be most affected by this because I bought a house in the area trying to get away from everything. I wanted my solitude and everything, and my house and my balcony overlooks the whole project. A great view of the poppy fields. I had an excellent earshot of the musical highway, which thank you very much for getting rid of.
We didn't get rid of it. We just moved it. We just moved it.
Wow, that was a tough one. But as I look at this project and I look at everything that's around me, I know that during the course of the evening there's going to be cars coming out, lights shining in my balcony. over my backyard. I know that there's going to be signs out there that are going to go ahead and glow into my bedroom at night. It's just one of those things that's inevitable. I am opposed to the program. I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be a really, I'm pro for it. I think it's going to be awesome in the fact that people in the community are going to have a sense of ownership. They're going to have a sense of congregation. They're going to be able to go to the grocery store and say, hey, this person lives right around the corner from me. So the protection aspect of it as a neighborhood, I think people are going to go ahead and bond together. I think it's going to be great in that aspect. Sunday morning, Saturday morning, when you want to go wash your car, you got a car wash out there, in which one of the things that I have to travel all the way into Quartz Hills or all the way down into the city just to either get my car washed or go ahead and just spend some time away from the house to go ahead and do that. So I think it's going to be a neat project in that sense. And again, like I said, I'm probably one of the people here that this is going to affect the most. One thing I do ask, and I know this is a very thought-out program, is because my wall borders the whole program, I'm not sure if they're actually going to go ahead and supplement the wall by building it maybe 2 feet higher, if the city can maybe go ahead and do something along those lines, maybe to help out to where we don't have that much of a nuisance in that. It is going to generate some problems, but I think as a city and as a community, we're going to be able to go ahead and work all those problems out itself. So I think it's great, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Nicole Parsons.
How you doing?
I'm good. We're just looking at your notebook.
Huh?
We're just looking at your notebook. Your notebook.
Oh,
It's just like ours. It's just like ours.
Oh, yeah. Well, since I represent probably the efforts of AB 32, which is to combat the effects and causes and the actions for global warming, and since that's it's a current actor, AB 32. I see you can't really, under CEQA, you can't really adopt anything if it has a threshold that's of significance. And under here, there's a significance because there's the cultural aspect. It hasn't. There's no mitigation and there's no finding to do it any other way. And the culture is it's the county town, and the cultural this people's culture is because it was a country town, and it's like cultural, like normal that there's been no high school across from the shopping center anywhere in this town. So I don't think unless you offer something to the people that you can pass it under the new CEQA rules in AB 32.
Thank you.
Right here.
Thank you. Now in opposition, Paul Jennings.
Thank you. Evening, Mayor and
I've never figured out how to do that.
Pardon?
I've never figured out how to do that.
My name is Paul Jennings. I live on the west side, about 4 houses from the border to this project. In our earlier meetings with the Planning Commission, the developer constantly brought out the fact that the 60th Street West was designated a regional arterial. I assume that was in the general plan 5 or so years ago. From the northern end of West 60th and Rosemont all the way to the south end in Lake Elizabeth Road, there's only 2 commercial establishments in that whole area. And one is at the restaurant at Avenue G, and the other is at L8 Arco Station. If the city had wanted commercial development along 60th Street West, why didn't they change the general plan 10 or 15 years ago instead of leaving it designated residential? Why throw a big commercial box center in the middle of an already beautifully developed neighborhood now? Why should we have to suffer from the city's lack of oversight? As you know, the developer has divided the project into 2 phases. Phase 1 consists of approximately the southern 1/3 of the project, and Phase 2 the northern 2/3. This was evidently done because the developer does not have committed tenants except for CVS and possibly McDonald's. CVS is in Phase 1, McDonald's in Phase 2. Phase 1 will be done first. The major advertised anchor store in the whole project, which is Lowe's, does not have a commitment to the project and may never have. This was confirmed by our representative calling the manager at Lowe's corporate headquarters. All of the rest of the buildings in the project have no committed tenants. If you approve this project tonight, it looks like all you're going to get is a lot of big promises from the developer who may or may not start Phase 1 while seeking more tenants for the other empty buildings. It may be years before Phase 2 is started, if ever. And is the developer really going to develop the project himself, or do we do like the rest of the investors and sell it off and take his money and run? If CVS is the only tenant that the developer has likely to have for a while, where all of the anticipated sales tax is coming from, it looks like you're determined to go ahead with the 2 developments at Quartz Hill High, and that will further weaken the potential sales tax base for this project. Therefore, since there are potentially no major anchor stores for this project, as well as most of the smaller stores, why approve it? The sales tax base that you're looking for is a way out in the future. Please consider the residents' opinions about 1,060 signed petitions opposing instead of one inconsiderate developer for it. Is the city still choosing these big developers over the citizens' wishes? Please do not approve this general plan and zoning change for this unnecessary project. And thank you for letting me run over.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Judith Marshall.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. My name is Judith Marshall, and I am a resident of Lancaster. As a concerned mother, grandmother, and resident, I would like to speak about the trash and littering that would be caused by this project at West 60th and K. One of the worst aspects of a large shopping center is the trash and litter that is generated by this type of project. A lot of this trash and litter doesn't stay within the project, but is scattered by the wind, car traffic, rodents, and so forth to contaminate the surrounding neighborhood. To verify this, just drive through and around one of these big box complexes. Home improvement stores such as Lowe's, Walmart, and Home Depot are a magnet and hangout for day laborers, and many other undesirables such as panhandlers asking you for money and following you to your vehicle, as has been done to me. I don't like it. Purse snatchers, homeless that sleep in the trash dumpsters, and that scrounge food from the trash cans. from behind fast food places, sexual predators that prey on our school children, that walk to and from school, and various other kinds of low-life criminals. These types are notorious trash producers. Is it any wonder we don't want this project? We don't need the project and don't want it in our neighborhood. I implore you to reconsider, listen to the people, and not just to the developers who contribute to the campaign funds. And by the way, the EIR report about valley fever only being in the San Joaquin Valley is wrong. I am a valley fever survivor. I caught valley fever in 2003, and it took me 9 months on amphotericin B to control it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Cleo Goss. I thought you were on the other project.
Oh, I'm on both.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to make a few points.
Okay.
For all the people who spoke about how they enjoy shopping closer to home, what's the matter? Didn't they know that they were buying in a residential area when they bought their homes? Point number 2, this center is not a mall, so it only provides limited types of shopping. How many building materials, garden supplies, hamburgers, drugs, and gas can the people buy? Enough to keep the stores open? I doubt it. Since the Antelope Valley is the foreclosure capital in Southern California, how many customers are there now, and how many will be remaining when the next wave of foreclosures appear? When people face foreclosure, do they not spend their limited funds on home improvements? Every type of shopping this establishment will provide is already available within 2 miles of this location. And lastly, the developers should buy out the residents who don't want to live by this and move in people who want to be close to shopping. Of course, they should pay a reasonable amount for the homes that they're displacing.
Thank you. Joshua, help me out here. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Paris, Vice Mayor, council members. I was born and raised here in the Antelope Valley my entire life, and I've seen the Antelope Valley go from a pretty good place when I was younger to a slosh pit of horribleness. And I want to thank you, Mayor, personally, for helping clean up this city. It's changed a lot since you've been in. I've seen it already. I'm strongly opposed to the shopping center. I've grew up over on Challenger and Jay, and I've seen how shopping centers, car washes, have just ransacked my family's neighborhood over there. And I moved over here to the side of Lancaster to get away from all that. It's going to bring so much pain and suffering to the people who live there. They want to walk their children. Let's put a park there, not a shopping center. There's so much land around our neighborhoods, them putting a shopping center right in the middle of our neighborhood. Can we put it to the side of the neighborhood, down the street a ways, not in the center where it's going to cause all these problems that we all have? We have so many vacant homes already in our neighborhood, not enough to support the kind of stores that are going in. The urban decay that's through our town is ridiculous already. It's not going to create more jobs. They're just going to take people's jobs over there and move them to these new stores. The outlet mall, the marketplace, is just a ghost town now. The new buildings that have just been built in the last 5 years are all vacant, like the Office Depot over by Kmart. Old buildings are vacant. The entire Challenger and Jay area is becoming vacant, and it's just gangs are moving in, violence is moving in, and I fear that's going to happen to our area in 5-10 years. I believe it is harmful for the existing business around town, and I believe it's harmful for our neighborhood. There's so many other areas around our neighborhood to build. Please don't build this where we live. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jerry Wolf.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. I'm Jerry Wolf, and I'm one of the residents that lives one house from the project that's being proposed. Let me say up front that I oppose strongly the rezoning and commercialization of the area of 60th and Avenue K, and agree with all the opposition opinions of those who spoke before me and those that will speak after me. And over 1,000 members of the communities that signed petitions opposing the projects. Our property, my wife and I's property, and that of many of our neighbors near the project in Lancaster, isn't just a piece of land and a house. It's our home. After serving 31 years in the military, an additional 5 years as a civil servant, and after relocating some 22 times over those years, both in and out of the country, we really believe that this move could finally have been our last. For our home, my wife and I chose a particular area of Lancaster that was close enough to retail, medical, and other support facilities, but far enough to be in a neighborhood environment that had not been and would not be inundated with the city life. There was a major mall 15 minutes away, gas stations, pharmacies, supermarkets, Costco, Lowe's, Home Depot, all within 2 to 5 miles. There was and is no shortage of retail facilities in that area of Lancaster. Our hope of providing a safe and comfortable place for our grandchildren to visit was found at this location, an area that was zoned completely residential, an area that will be virtually in the parking lot of a commercial strip mall if the rezoning is approved. If approved, when our grandchildren visit, or for the children who already live in the neighborhood, instead of a park, we'll give them a parking lot. Instead of green, we'll give them blacktop. Instead of clean air, we'll give them gas fumes. Instead of a place to fly kites, we'll give them a maze through the cars and traffic, not the quality of life we had envisioned. While this is currently a rezoning issue, the issue that will follow for the community, if this is approved, is commercialization of that property. An EIS was conducted and supposedly adequately addressed the mitigation issues associated with any commercial project: pollution, traffic, sounds and smells, safety, drainage, lights, none of which I feel was or can be fully mitigated in this setting. The EIS did not address the most important part of any populated environment, the people. We're hopeful that you will recognize those impacts and the negative impacts it will have on the quality of life of the communities around us. We don't oppose growth. We just don't believe that this is an appropriate location for that type of growth. The reality is that Lancaster and our current community is a great place to live. Please help the people of the communities surrounding Avenue K and 60th keep that reality. Please be our champions in the effort to save our community. Please vote against the rezoning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Richard Hecker.
Thank you, Mayor Paris and council members. I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you tonight. As the webmaster for Quartz Hill Cares, I encounter a lot of different views on what is and is not a good approach for development on the west side. Quartz Hill Cares promotes a balanced approach. We believe that there is a need for commercial and retail needs on the west side. The question has always been how to satisfy that need and where should these centers be put. At the Planning Commission meeting, I spoke up at that point and I pointed out that zone changes are not something that are given away for free. They have a cost. People buy their homes in good faith, looking at the general plan that tells them they're going to have either commercial areas or residential areas around the home they're going to buy. To change the rules after the fact, to break that contract with them, is the concern I have. I look at things such as what's the social good? What is the benefit for making that zone change? That's the question I would like to hear the developers address. I've heard residents talk about things such as, well, 6 miles is too far to drive for shopping. My question is, well, why not then make it 3 miles? Or why not 1 mile? Where do you draw the limit? There are people who will sit on their couch using the remote watching TV who won't even get up to go to the refrigerator to get something for themselves. Should we target satisfying those people, put it close enough that those people will be happy? One of the questions brought up was the developers and promises they make. It was referred to as may or may not promises. On my way over here this evening, I drove through the intersection of K and 30th West. I was here the evening that the City Council shafted the Brentwood homeowners who got up and spoke about not wanting to have that zone change put in effect. And it's still an empty intersection. So these promises that developers make, that's something I think ought to be looked seriously at. My question is, what's the social good? I'd like to see the developer show that a zone change is going to produce more good than bad, and I'm glad to hear the speakers who think it's a good idea willing to come out and express their view. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mike Scott.
My name's Mike Scott, and I want to thank you for your time. And what I have to say is in rebuttal to the people that I have a lot of respect for, that are proponents of this box store idea. However, when I was up against the back wall, I heard some of the murmurs, and I came up with some of my own rebuttals. And one of the ladies said that instead of driving to a store where they're going to be combating traffic, we're going to be combating traffic in our own neighborhood. And another person was saying that they're going to be glad that they're going to have a house that's so close to a commercial development. And I was thinking that they could make a profit by selling their home in this rural area and buying a house of their choice cheaper near the box store of their choice. Someone mentioned an author by the name of Jane Jacobs about how it'd be better to have little cities interspersed, and I was wondering if maybe that Jane Jacobs would suggest an industrial park in that area also. A gentleman stood up and said that he wanted a job in this area. I think that this is an area where we can go and relax, come home, and having a work area, a job in this area would be like having an office in your bedroom. It's just not going to be all that relaxful. A lady said that she's not going to be able to drive, or they don't want to drive as much. And I say that they're going to drive less because the streets will be so congested that it'll be easier to walk than to drive and park there. Another man said that the snow was a problem. I'd say you're not going to walk in the snow to go to the store. Another gentleman in the back mentioned that we're going to have empty stores instead of empty homes. My daughter says that if a guy's interested in getting his car washed, that he should take advantage of the booster clubs that make their money to support their community by washing cars, which I used this weekend. Another person was saying that they could rent their house by saying that it's close to a commercial zoning. I say it's more popular to have a house that's closer to a school or a rural area that would make a better sell. My daughter also noted to the nice lady with her beautiful family that she didn't want to walk through the neighborhood where there could be snakes. And she pointed out that these stores will draw in predators that are more dangerous than snakes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Since we started with the Jennings, I thought we would finish with the Jennings. Amelia Jennings?
Good evening, Mayor Pierce and council members and staff. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Amelia Jennings. I live just west of this project, just 4 houses back west of it. We've not been bugging you about this project, this proposed shopping center at 60th and K. That does not mean that we approve it. Quite the opposite. I very much oppose it. I cannot imagine why you would even consider approving the change from residential to commercial. With the economy as it is, and so many businesses going out of business, leaving so many Lancaster business buildings vacant, as well as vacant homes, soon you will have a city that will look just like a ghost town. In fact, it's getting close to that already. Lancaster is a nice city. Don't let this happen to our city. The economy has made the value of our homes in this area drop to less than half of what we paid for them. And if this shopping center is approved, our home values will drop again. It seems as though we are getting hit from all angles. Now we find out our governor and the prison authorities are going to move the hardcore prisoners in on us just less than a mile from our home, which will lower the value of our homes again. How much more can we take? I realize that you are trying to stop the prison change, and we greatly appreciate your efforts. But we should pray, hope and pray that you will save our neighborhood by not passing this request to change the site from residential to commercial. Most of us in this neighborhood put everything we had in our homes, so we cannot afford any more loss of value of our homes. So we could not sell our homes because we could not even pay off what we owe with the money we could sell it for. Of miscellaneous fees for street widening, stoplights, additional safety, and expected taxes for the city more important than the wishes of the people that presently live there? Is this what the city of Lancaster is striving for? Running people out of their homes, or making the ones that have to stay there miserable with an unneeded, unwanted shopping center? Most of the people in this city don't feel they have any say on what goes on in this city already. I hope you're going to show everyone in the city you are looking for the good of you are working for the good of the residents, not the developers. Stop building anything until the economy and water shortage gets better. I'm sure that everyone has a home in Lancaster is very proud of you for what you have accomplished with the crime, the gangs, and Section 8, as I am. Keep up the good work, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mrs. Jennings. Okay, that concludes the public comments. Any council discussion? Oh, let's close the public hearing. Any comments? Well, I'll go first. Okay.
Well, I'm glad to see people kept their comments primarily on, is commercial a good thing on the corner of K and 60th West? That is the question we have to answer tonight. And I don't think that's a decision that we make in a vacuum. That's, I know, something ever since the city council, staff, planning commission undertook the effort to revamp our general plan, it was readily apparent that we have a lack of commercial sites on the west side of the Antelope Valley to serve both the existing residences, although that's obviously a contentious point, as we've heard tonight, but given the number of approved housing projects and approved rooftops, there will certainly be a lack of commercial locations in West Lancaster. That's not to say those rooftops are going to be built overnight. Of course they're not. We have a horrible housing problem that this city's dealing with, that the state is dealing with, that this country is dealing with. We don't exist in a vacuum. When I look at the west side of the city of Lancaster, in a perfect world, given what zoning could be or will likely be at the end of the general plan update, it'd be great to have commercial sites at 70th or 90th. But given what currently exists, I think 60th Street West, somewhere along there, there makes sense to be some commercial. literally decades ago, the founding fathers of this city recognized that, and that's why one corner of 60th and L has been zoned commercial for years, recognizing that one day people would come, there is a need for regional or neighborhood commercial centers. The difficulty that we face tonight and the decision we have is that the corner we're looking at is in close proximity to an existing residential neighborhood. Like I said, we don't make decisions in a vacuum. Now we have to decide there's a cost benefit here. Is it worth it to the city as a whole to encourage commercial at the corner of 60th West and Avenue K? Is that worth it given the impact it has to the immediate neighborhood? That's a very difficult decision. We have to look at that in terms of, okay, 70th West and 90th West would be great places for commercial someday. It's not commercially viable until there's some rooftops there. We will have no commercial on the west side if we chose those locations as our only commercial sites. We have to look at the imbalance we have between jobs, commercial, and housing. I don't think anybody would argue that, given our economy, we have an excess amount of housing. That's why we are a bedroom community, and we're striving to be a more balanced and centered community. That means more jobs, more shopping, more retail, based on the number of rooftops we already have. If we didn't approve another housing development for the next 20 years, we still need more commercial on the west side. Unless I hear something different from my fellow council members to change my mind, I'm leaning towards approving the project as a commercial corner. There's a lot that would need to be worked out in terms of impacting the neighbors, but this is not the forum for that. This would be zoned commercial plan development. That's where the details get worked out. That's where you hash out a lot of the details. How tall is the wall? Do you have landscaping? Where's your ingress? Where's your egress? How do you orient the buildings? How do you take care of lighting, noise, trash, hours of service, all of those things? Tonight's question is this a good location for commercial? And when I weigh the negative and the positive, I'm coming down, it's a positive for commercial.
This is probably one of my first big decisions that I'm faced tonight to make, and to give you a little bit about my background before I express some of my thoughts. I've sat on the Planning Commission for close to 16 years, and my greatest frustration that was expressed when I ran for City Council was the way in which development has taken place in the city of Lancaster. As a planning commissioner, you're faced with making a decision between, is it appropriate based on land use in the general plan? I know that my fellow council members, although they are also experienced, because I think all four of us coincidentally have sat on the Planning Commission, I probably have the greatest seniority, and I don't know if that gives me bragging rights or maybe greater disappointments, because I've watched things transpire, and I can actually look now and look at the city, and I can express times that I'm happy with the way in which development has taken place, and I can actually see some footprints that are left that were impacted by my decision making. I suspect that this city council will probably have to continue to make tough decisions that maybe someone else was not willing to make 8 years ago or 10 years ago. And that's my greatest frustration. I believe I got elected by a core of people that have a lot of strong principles about neighborhoods, unity, family. To concur with my fellow council member Ed Cilio, the biggest disappointment is there was decisions made long ago on the west side of Lancaster to zone a significant part of that residential, whether that be R7000, R8, R10. And now I have to look towards what's best, not just for today, not for tomorrow, but what are we going to have to deal with 8 to 10 years from now? I believe somebody made a grave mistake 8-10 years ago. What we should have had in that general plan that we don't have tonight is we don't have those nodes of commercial identified on the west side to support all that housing that is either already built or at some point in time, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, will be built. I myself, as my fellow council member Ed Cilio, when I take a look at a land use map that we currently have and what is going to be proposed with the future general plan update, it significantly looks as if Avenue K and 60th is a node of commercial development that needs to take place. I'm as frustrated as you are because I know the impact to the people that bought homes, was told that this is zoned residential, you don't have to worry about it. I don't think if that was conveyed, I don't think anybody misled you. Unfortunately, I think the previous leadership, that's who dropped the ball. And I'm tough enough to sit here, whether I have everybody's agreement or I don't have everybody's agreement. I'm smart enough to stand up and hopefully, based on my education, my experience, make the right decisions so we can stop the nonsense that's been going on for a number of years. I appreciate everybody here tonight. My 16 years of being on the Planning Commission, so much frustration when we would have a general plan update or we'd ask people to come out and embrace the planning process and convey their thoughts. And each and every time we would get dismal turnouts, small turnouts. And then what would happen is the general plan would evolve, and I think people would get misled from what's taken place historically. I know there's a lot of thoughts about what could be built there. I don't think that's the decision that we need to make tonight. It's just where should those developments be? The plan is, and it's a little bit too far in the water now for us to make a change, is 60th Street, and we had plenty of hearings on this, is the major corridor that takes traffic both north and south. Common sense tells me, based on my training and education as a planning commissioner, those are the best, that's the best location to front commercial development. Wouldn't be back on 50th, wouldn't work long term. I myself, 70th is really not designed. If it, at 5 years from now, it will even support commercial development. But I wanted to make sure that everybody understands my feelings tonight. If I could line up all the planning commissioners and tell them you have a responsibility to try to mitigate this because we're now faced with the decision of possibly putting a commercial development in a neighborhood, they're going to have to work to their utmost, hardest degree to be able to mitigate that impact in the neighborhood. Again, I'm disappointed and I'm frustrated. And I speak from my heart, but I also know that the buck stops right here when it comes to making a decision.
Mr. Mayor, Council. One of the things I heard from a lot of the citizens coming up here is this sense of community. And if anybody has recently read Gladwell's book on outliers, there was this little conversation that he had about a group of immigrants that came in that had this long life expectancy. and they started doing research on them and finding out that, they still ate the same crud that everybody else ate. They still had the same jobs, but why were they living longer? They were living longer because they had a close-knit community. And a number of the people brought this up, and I think maybe the woman from Sweden, and that's how they function there too, is these tighter-knit communities, a sense of citizenship with each other. And I know all of us, I've been on the Planning Commission. One of the conversations that we've had, and we've been trying to work on the general plan recently and for a number of years, the commercial sites, is how do you create these clusters of sense of community in an ocean of land that we have here. And every project that we've looked at, every shopping center, the downtown project, the different parks, everything we look at, we're trying to incorporate this sense of community, this walkability, this mixed use. It's funny that Mr. Jennings said that, why didn't they do this a long time ago and designate it? I'm with Councilman Mann. I think they should have. The general plan was done before I was even a planning commissioner, and that was, 8.5 years ago. It's funny that that's brought up because last night the planning commission just got done finishing up the general plan that they're going to be sending to us to look at. And guess what they had an argument about? They had a discussion, I think they had a split vote on some of it, of exactly what Councilman Mann and Councilman Cilio and some of the people have said out there, including Mr. Jennings, is why don't we start designating some of this property out here commercial? And some of the arguments were, well, if we leave it open, we can always change it because we have 4 general plan amendments that we can do. It's flexible. It's not made in stone. That's what this is tonight. Then there were other planning commissioners that just got done with this project here that a number of you spoke at, said, we don't want to get stuck in the same position that we are now. Let's plan for the future, and I think we need to do more of it. Talking about the driving, I won't say exactly what store I shop at, but I've been shopping there for about 23 years. It's a mile down from my house. They built a really nice one about 3 miles away. I mean, it has a Starbucks, it has a whole bunch of stuff. And every morning I still drive to the one down the street. And I go to coffee, and Mr. Mann and I sort of meet up at McDonald's because it's real close right by my house. I mean, there might be better coffee around the corner. So you bump into people in the store. Mayor Roberts, when he was here, I used to bump into him. David Paul and I have talked in the grocery store numerous times. We shop at the same store. So it does build a sense of community. And I think that any decision that we make up here, whether it's a planning commission or whether it's a city council, I can tell you every decision is based on what is good for the larger sense of the community, the 147,000 people we have, and how does that affect the smaller groups that's living right there, or how does it affect the individual? It's always a tough decision. But I think we have been looking at, we do need more commercial on the west side because you don't want an ocean of homes. Like Councilman Cilio said, there's a lot of track maps that are already out there. There's an ocean of homes that as soon as the economy picks up again, they're going to be booming. And it's very difficult to get commercial going. It's easy to get the houses built, but it's tough to get the commercial going. And I don't think we want to be hearing 20 years from now, why didn't you have something, why do I have to drive a half hour to go buy some groceries? So I think that's my viewpoint on it.
Thank you. I disagree that this is anybody's responsibility other than ours. I think that it's very easy to talk about hindsight as to, I wish I could live my life knowing what I know now. I mean, and I'm sure that everyone here would do so also. I don't know what the circumstances were 10 years ago when that was zoned, or 20 years ago when that was zoned. I certainly am not going to second-guess the people that made those decisions. I also don't think this is fair to the people that live near that development. I've talked to Mr. and Mrs. Jennings a couple times about this, and they're absolutely right. This is not fair. It just isn't. And if there was some way that I could make it fair, I would. but I also recognize we are building a city. And how we build that city now is the only thing I can effectuate. The only thing we can do to make this a better place to live is decisions we make now. And I hope when they do the conditional use permit for this development, there's a way that is figured out that everybody is satisfied. Hopefully the development will be sufficiently designed that it enhances the value of the property. I think the assumption that it won't is based upon the design of other box developments. And I'm hoping that the Planning Commission and the developer are working towards something different with this. And if they're not, then we will have to rule on that when and if it gets to us. But make no mistake, I do understand this is unfair. And I want you to understand that I understand that this is our decision. And as unfair as it is, the only people responsible for the decision are us. And we are making the best decision we can in light of 150,000 people. And so reluctantly, I think I've indicated to you what my feelings were in the past, and they haven't changed. Anything else, or can we vote? Let's vote.
Well, let me make the motion. Let's make the motion then. We have two motions to make. The first one, I'll move that we adopt resolution number 09-36.
Second that.
Okay, let's vote.
Second motion would be that we introduce ordinance number 923.
Second that.
Oh, the other one was passed unanimously, I'm sorry. And this is passed unanimously also. Thank you. Let's take a break.
Thank you.
Let's start. Well, when we start, we got to be quiet. Thank you. Hey, that's pretty good. Moving on to the council agenda. We will, unless there's an objection, we will pull council agenda item 1, 2, and 3 and put them together since they all involve relatively the same item. Any problem with that?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, good. So if you have a card as to council agenda item 1, 2, and 3, we will consolidate those into one item. So you won't be speaking 3 times, you'll be speaking 1 time, just so everybody's clear. Okay, I guess I'll throw it to you.
Okay. I guess we can discuss it some and then do the speaker's card, since that's sort of the it's not a staff report thing, it's not really a public hearing, but as I suggested last time, I'd like to see the park that we have here in central Lancaster. We've been talking about for quite a while doing some kind of memorial to American heroes, people who have given their life, or even some heroes that are alive that risk their life, citizens of the Antelope Valley. And so my suggestion was that we take the park that is currently designated as James C. Gilley Park and we name it American Heroes Park. And we also have an appropriate memorial. There were people, and I've read newspaper articles and heard what Councilman Mann said about the Rowell family and their contribution to the Antelope Valley. And just so everybody knows that part of the park that we're going to be creating is going to have, and it's not finalized exactly everything it's going to be, but it is going to have some type of memorial to that family. And it's going to show the house that was there. It's going to talk about the contributions, the people that served in the war, and a history of that family. So they are going to be honored within that park also. So that would be, that's where I stand right now, is I'd like to have it named American Heroes Park.
Jerry, do you want to turn off the lights, please? Thank you. Should we open it up, or do you guys want to discuss it?
Yeah, I mean, we have the three items. I figure we just discuss the whole thing.
Yeah, would each presenter like to give their take on their item first?
Yeah, obviously my item was agenda item, or the council agenda item number 3. I myself, I think that there may be some synergy between myself and my fellow council member, Mr. Smith. My thoughts is usually when you see the build-out of a downtown area, I've said this many times as a planning commissioner, that you have two choices with a downtown area. You either support it and help revitalize it and let it flourish, or you let it die. And many of us can go back to hometowns that either our parents grew up in or maybe even you grew up in, and we go back to the downtown area, and it's not been properly supported from the way in which the city evolves. I think that having a downtown park and having it emulate the people that are contributors to the city of Lancaster, and I think that when you look, we could actually come up with lots of ways in which to determine what those contributors are, whether they're somebody that were maybe pioneering families that helped make Lancaster be what it is today when we look back and we take stock in it. I know that the last couple of years with the war and strife, I know that a lot of people stop and they reflect, and we're maybe getting back to the way things used to be, which I think is quite nice. But we're now reflecting upon the people that go to war on behalf of what is considered freedom, and we need to acknowledge who they are as contributors as well. And I know there's been discussion about the people that live here locally that put their line on they put their lives on the line every day, whether it be a patrolman or a fireman. And I think what would be a centerpiece in downtown Lancaster would be a park that supports all those groups. I have to honestly say I did not do a lot of homework historically about what was discussed or what was, if there was any promises made about the property downtown that is now designated James C. Gilley Park. We all are aware of, and deep in my heart, the Rowell family. I worked with Marguerite Rowell for 12 years on the United Way Board. In fact, if she was still here today and alive, she'd probably tell you that she was responsible for getting me on the United Way board. And there used to be an argument all the time, and I actually kind of liked it a little bit. But Marguerite and I had a very close relationship. I know quite a bit of history about the family. As a council member, I have to express I was extremely disappointed that we tore it down. That's the God-honest truth. Maybe 4 years ago or 6 years ago, had I been sitting on the city council and I had a greater maybe input about that building would still be standing there. Because I think too often in the past, historically, we've tore down a lot of part of the past of Lancaster that we feel is great. Somebody said, well, Ken, it's just too expensive to try to resurrect it. And I'm thinking, yeah, right. I've been to Texas and I've been to San Antonio, and I've seen the Alamo, and it don't look too good. There's part of the roof missing, and it's made of adobe too, but it's still there, and the state of Texas was able to preserve it because they thought it was significant enough. But again, maybe I showed up too late to make a significant impact. I believe there's been some positive, constructive communication after I put the agenda item on there from the mayor, and I believe that I've spoken to a couple of staff employees, and I know that historically, when we name a park after a family, this city, whether it was a written policy or not, when the land is either donated or the money is given to them, in their honor, the city is honored what they've contributed. And that specifically calling it the Rao Park would be potentially maybe a disservice to some of the families beforehand that have contributed property and or money. And I know Marguerite might, if she was sitting side by side at the table with me, she might hit me on the head. We were pretty intimate when we would meet and speak about the things that we encountered on United Way. If at all possible, if I could convince the two council members and the mayor, I'd be willing to try to find some middle ground. What would be extremely important to me would be the first memorial that would go up there would have to honor the Rao family. That's important to me. Whether somebody made promises about that house or they didn't make promises, or maybe it was misconstrued, I think there's enough people that feel that that family was a major contributor to Lancaster and Antelope Valley, and I think the family historically has been a major part of Lancaster, and that would be my wishes. And I know that if Marguerite was here tonight, she'd be pretty proud to know that we're talking about the family.
I agree with you. I think staff has already been working on what kind of memorial and what kind of display and everything that I think Mr. Green can say that they've had collections of photographs and historical stuff, and so I think that probably will be, that's ahead of the game of being done. And it's we haven't even voted on doing a memorial for American heroes yet. I think that's got to probably pass tonight, but that's going to take a little bit more planning. We've talked about public artwork and other things too, so I'm sure your wishes will be met by staff. At least that's what I think.
I'd like to hear from my other council member and the mayor as well.
I'm going to wait till after our speakers' cards.
Okay.
I think I will too. Let's go with the speaker cards.
Okay. It's going to be interesting how they all marked them down, because I don't know what their It's, I have a whole bunch of cards that are in opposition. So I don't know if they're in opposition to, what they are, and then I have about 7 of those. I have a couple that are in favor, and I have a couple that are neutral. So I'll just give you a big pile there, Mr. Mayor, and then...
Heck, do them alphabetical.
There you go.
Random selection. Darlene Peterson, come on down.
I think that was a stacked deck.
Fix.
Won't get worse. Let's see, this is for up. That's how this works. The green button is for up.
Well, how do you know it's green?
Well, it isn't red, so it has to be green. You don't have a blue one. All right. You've got me off my script because you screwed everything up with all this 1, 2, 3, and I threw it together, so bear with me.
Okay. I did that on purpose, just for you.
Say that?
I did that on purpose, just for you.
Of course you did, but don't worry, you're never going to win. Number 1, on the mayor's suggestion that we name the park after Jim Gilley, that's a bad idea. We're just trying to straighten out one mess, have something named Jim Gilley. Let's don't...
You told me it was a good idea a month ago.
That's before I had time to think.
Oh, okay.
We don't need to name any park after a private person, in my opinion. Number 2.
What about if they're dead?
Pardon?
What about if they're dead?
No, that don't make them any better person. Just because you die, you're not necessarily a better person.
Okay, I just want to know where you stand.
Oh, I got an answer.
Okay.
Don't forget.
Okay.
Okay. The community at large, I think, should have a choice in what to name the park. And we shouldn't be rushed into this. Just because it annoys you, remember, you're there to serve us.
It's only been 3 years.
We're not here to serve you. You're there to serve us, so let's don't rush this. Let's get it right.
Darlene, they did it 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
Because we'll do it over if you don't do it right. As soon as you're out of office, we'll start all over and we'll get it right.
5 years ago.
So save the money.
It's been 5 years, Darlene. How much time do you need?
As much as I care to take. Okay. My suggestion would be to honor all of them. Name the park something just an example. Lancaster Central Park or Pioneer Park. Have a row corner and honor them with whatever. There's a beautiful tree out here in front donated by Lou and Nell Bozigan in memory, I believe, of his parents, his grandparents. It's beautiful. The plaque is beautiful. We should have one for the firefighters, one for the sheriffs, one for the veterans, and a corner for the rows. And give it a generic name, Lancaster Central Park. Well, isn't it a Central Park? Isn't it a Central Park or a Pioneer Park? And one other thing. You took a poll.
No, I want to correct that right now, and I'll give you more time, okay?
Okay.
That was just Bob Wilson not asking me what I did and just making it up, okay? That's the truth of it. He does do that.
I know.
That's exactly what he did.
Accuse him of everything under the sun.
That's right. What I did was, about 4 months ago, I paid for a service that will poll all of the citizens that have registered their email when they registered to vote. And it's about 10,000 people. So whenever I want to poll the citizens, I just send out the email. It's not like I contracted anybody for just this purpose. The other time I did it was when I polled the citizens as to whether or not we should change the name of LPAC to the Antelope Valley Performing Arts Center, because that was what was being discussed at the moment.
You just can't leave bad enough alone, can you?
Yeah, I know. You know how I am.
Yeah, I do.
What I'm saying is no, I didn't go hire a polling service just for this. I have a polling service whenever I want some guidance from the citizens that I have the email address from. We send it out. And it's really not a poll, it's more of a survey of people who have email addresses. In order to do a poll, it has to be random. And I can't do it random if I'm just polling people with internet service. I'm missing all those other people. So it's not statistically valid.
So you think you wiggle out of that one, don't you?
No, I'm just telling you what I did.
What I want to know is it said in the paper it was from Utah, the firm from Utah.
Bob might be right on that, but I don't know.
What I want to know is...
I went to the League of Cities meeting and met
home?
these folks.
What happened to Shop at Home? Your little sign here, the city...
Okay, would you tell me the name of the polling service?
Puts this out, says, when you shop in Lancaster, you too serve our community.
And Darlene, if you would tell me the name of the polling service in Lancaster that will poll 10,000 voters every time I want to send out a poll, I'll use the local one. But there is no local one, okay? You're busting my chops unfairly on that one.
We should search for one because we need to shop at home.
I agree. I totally agree. That's why I started buying my clothes at Costco. That was a little different for me.
Where you bought that fancy car you're driving.
I'm sorry, what?
I was going to ask you where you bought that fancy car you're driving.
Well, you got me there, didn't you? They don't sell that fancy car in Lancaster. I did ask Ricky Clutter if he could get it for me, and he told me he couldn't. So I had to go out of town. Isn't that right, Ricky?
There's just one more thing, and I'll let you go.
Okay.
And this time you didn't say how you...
There's only 200 of those cars in the whole country. They were a limited supply.
If I was in your shoes, I wouldn't drive that car. I wouldn't want everybody to know where to put the bomb.
Darlene?
You're in deep water.
I want you to know that you and my mother are the only ones who could get away with a remark like that.
So just one more thing, and I'll let you go. This time you didn't tell me how you'd missed me. So I was going to tell you. I was prepared, and you screwed at it, too.
I did miss you.
I was going to tell you...
Isn't it obvious? Isn't it obvious I missed you?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay.
I would be here more often, but I always have a trouble. I never know where to park my broom. So we need a broom rack out here.
Mr. City Manager, would you get us a broom rack?
and my
can't even...
my space shuttle.
Thank you, Darlene. Star Moffat.
Good evening, City Council members and Mayor. My name is Star Moffat, and I'm a constituent within this town. I have resided in Lancaster since 1987. I'm speaking on behalf of CA3 in regards to renaming the James Gilley Park. I'm opposed to naming the park after James Gilley. I'm not opposed to the park per se. I would recommend that the park be named after the Rowell family in recognition of the family being a pioneer family of this community. Dedicating a memorial section to a specific section of the park is not good enough. I really think that the park should be named after the Rowell family. And I also wanted to speak in regards to asking you a question if there is a preservation ordinance on the books of the City Council. The City Council member, Mr. Mann, spoke in regards that, if I recollect, in reference to ordinance issues. I know I'm a little nervous, so bear with me. But with the Rowell family, I think that what happened was, because there's no preservation ordinance on the books, someone did not speak up on behalf of the constituents and on behalf of the interests of the Rowell family, and without such an ordinance on the books, we will continue to have places that have historical values torn down. And I would like to conclude again with, I'm opposed to the park being named after Mr. Gilley. Mr. Gilley did serve as the city manager, if I'm correct, and he did a fine job. But again, the park should be named after a pioneer family, the Rowell family. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Pelka.
I'm adamantly opposed to naming the park after Jim Gilley, and seeing as how we didn't hear anything from Mr. Smith up until about 2 weeks ago. about what his thoughts were as far as naming the park. So since you're so adamant about wanting to name the park after ex-city manager, why don't you go ahead and name it after somebody who actually did something good for the city in the short, limited amount of time that they were here. Name it Bob LaSala Park. Since he was city manager for the very short period of time, he actually balanced the budget. In fact, he actually created a surplus budget for the city of Lancaster and also provided more sheriffs that Mr. Gillies could not seem to provide for the citizens of the city. So that's my suggestion for the park, since you want to name it after a city manager.
Should we name it the $1 million Bob LaSala Park? I couldn't help myself. I know I shouldn't, but I just couldn't. Mr. Burgess.
Good evening, Mayor Paris, council members. My name is Gary Burgess, and I am a resident of Lancaster. And I'll call this one citizen's response to this issue at hand of CA1. When you are a paid public employee, I feel that when you do good things, some things that border on great and others that are great, then you should be amply rewarded by being given a paycheck at the end of the month, and possibly a monetary bonus if your supervisor feels it is warranted. If you lose your life in the process of doing your job and you're in public service, a military, fireman, policeman, and such, then I feel that it is more than justified to receive name recognition and remembrance, especially in a public place. In regards to Mr. Gilly having things named after him, he was amply rewarded. He was paid to do his job. I would ask that if a monument is installed at the site that we're talking about, the park, it be required that we shop at home, giving the award for the design and fabrication to a local artist and or business. Since you combined them, we'll move on. In relation to CA2, and I'm not sure what that's all about, if Gilly's name's going to pop its head up here on that one, but...
Oh, you know what it's about. You read Warford's article.
Well, I don't think I did, tell you the honest truth.
Okay.
But anyhow, first off, I'm in favor of keeping the word national in the name of the soccer center. I think that implies bigness, greatness, and such. And as Mark pointed out once before about brand recognition, I don't think we could have a better brand recognition than keeping the name of Lancaster in the title. And I ask, basically, I ask, why do we need to rename the soccer center? I mean, there's probably reasons, I guess, that I'm not aware of. And of course, I'm definitely against naming the center in recognition of any living individual. So I oppose naming anything in this city for Jim Gilly. And one reason, and this is off the cuff here, that I remember, and if it's wrong, then I can stand corrected right now, but Jim Gilly made the statement, I read it in the Valley Press, that he didn't realize that the shopping center would make that big a difference in this valley. And he was instrumental, I guess, in letting it slip past. I don't know. That was in the Valley Press some time back. So Jim was a smart man in many ways.
Still is.
And he shouldn't have let that slip past if at all possible. So anyhow, there you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burgess. David Paul?
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, good evening. For the last couple of years, whenever we drove to the Friends of the Library sale, we'd drive by the Adobe House, and I'd tell my kids, someday you'll be able to tell your children you drove by the Adobe House. Then it was gone. They were disappointed. While I was working the sale, my wife took them over there, and they dug for archaeological artifacts, and they came home with a drain pipe. We went to the museum downtown, and they had a similar thing laid out for the kids to dig, and I think we should fence that area off and have an archaeological hunt for our children and let them dig up some parts of the past before it's all gone. You know, I like to say that there's no greater joy in life than to love and respect the law, but the law must be worthy of that love and respect. Now, I have three measures that I use generally to judge a society's worthiness to have the law respected. First is how they treat and educate women and children. The second is how the society treats their sick, they're disabled, and they're poor. The third, and I want to talk a little bit more about that later, the third is how we keep our commitment to the people that protect us. And just this morning I was watching the news about the soldier that snapped in Iraq and killed the 5 servicemen. And I was telling my friend who I worked out with this morning, he's a guy who lives down the street, he's a mortician, and he gets a lot of business. He's the only one, he's one of these unsung heroes who takes a lot of the county business of forgotten veterans that are unclaimed. And you know, whenever we go down to the library, and I know when this park comes, there's a lot of homeless people that congregate and they wait to use the facilities. It's the only place they have. So our park is going to draw a lot of homeless people. We can expect that. Now, this is what I was thinking. Memorial Heroes Park is a great name, but what I would like to see are some of those forgotten veterans that are homeless and living on the streets. I have friends personally that never came back from Vietnam. They came back in body, but not in spirit. And these people are laying on our streets and dying, and they go unrecognized. So I was thinking what a thing it would be if you could get past some of the rules that would prohibit it, and we could take a homeless veteran and honor him and tour him in the park, in Heroes Park, and be the only city in America that has recognized the value of the homeless veteran. And it incorporates every other. It would be a drawing point that would put our city on the map. So please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pope. Bob Alvis.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm Bob Alvis, born down here on Lancaster Boulevard in 1954. So I think I have a little bit of a dog in the hunt.
Although you're a youngster. You know.
Yeah, I'm a youngster. There you go. Heroes Park is something that we would name. If we could get the Jethawk Stadium out there to do Heroes Park, I understand that would be the type of venue to where, as a service like that, Soldier Field in Chicago or Veterans Field back in Washington, D.C. I can understand that, and that's where I think a Heroes Memorial should be, in a civic setting like that. But when it comes to our Rowell Park here, and it will always be Rowell Park to us people that grew up in this city, I think of the Rowell family, and I think of Robert Rowell, who as a nuclear physicist, gave so much to this country, and there's so much you don't know about that guy that helped us during the Cold War that won't come out until years from now. And then you have Homer Rowell, who was my doctor when I was a kid on these streets, and as a hero to this community and stuff. How many people's lives did he affect as a doctor, taking care of us and our families during that time period? And then we have Maurice Rowell, principal of Antelope Valley High School there, was so loved. When he died in 1928, this whole valley shut down, and I have people here that attended that funeral service when they were 8 years old, and that was standing room only in this community and stuff for the Rowell family. Then you have Agnes Rowell, as a teacher for 40 years, served this community. How many kids did she take care of? When you start adding up the numbers and the difference she made in the lives, those are the heroes in this community that made a difference. And then the final one, my God, Lieutenant Richard Rowell, who on May 8th, 1942, on his third mission for the day, took off from the deck of the USS Lexington, and he didn't come back. He didn't come back. The most sacred of all of our veterans is at MIA, because Agnes Rowell never got to hug that son one more time. He sat there, and he gave his last full devotion to this country. He hand-built that adobe house over there with his bare hands for his son, for his mother, along with Homer and Robert. And we can't sit there and say, well, we're going to give you a little piece of that park. That is just unacceptable. I can't deal with that. And I think when Agnes Rowell broke the bottle of champagne over the bow of the USS Rowell, she would have much rather had her son in her arms. But she had at the end of the day, she knew she had the love of the country because the United States was honoring the sacrifice of their family. And I think it would be an absolute disservice for us to name that park anything but after the Rowell family. Thank you.
Thank you. Bonnie Stone. And now for the out-of-town speakers. John Manning.
Thank you, City Council members. It's the emotion that you just saw, I think, is the driving force behind this. Question may ask, we have big issues before us. You do, all of us, especially you in this forum, such as the one you just passed, the 60th and K. We all understand that. In terms of something of that magnitude, this is not a big issue. You are right. But the issue was not that. The issue is, whether it's true or not, there has been an impression in this city going back literally maybe 15 years or so, that the people in the city have not been in control. Whether that's true or not is almost irrelevant. And that is an impression throughout this valley in both cities. And I think that is why this became such a big issue. Not because it's as big as 60th and K, but because the people, again, felt that they were ignored. The Rowell House, Bob LaSala, the Walmart at Quartz Hill, and I'm certainly not taking a position on any of those. I understand they are difficult problems. Personally, I think the Walmart is a disaster, but that's my personal opinion. The most fundamental reason people are here tonight is because the people have felt in this city disenfranchised for a long time. And that is why it is outpouring, and you just heard a bit of it in the past 4 or 5 speakers. You, Mr. Mayor, yesterday in the paper used the words insignificant and meaningless. You meant no harm by that. I understand that. But that has been interpreted by several people as saying, see, they're really not taking us seriously. It's just reaffirming what I just said and reaffirming why you're seeing this explosion. And I do understand, Rex, you meant nothing bad by that. But nonetheless, that just touches that nerve once again. You did say, and you're correct, I also had very good parents, as I hope all of us did. And I was told when you give something away, you don't take it back. But I was also told, when you make a mistake, such as Mr. Cilio did, he voted for this some 4 or 5 years ago. When you make a mistake, be man enough to stand up and say, I made a mistake, and I'm going to correct it. And that's what we need to do. In 1963, Cape Canaveral was changed to Cape Kennedy. 10 years later, the American government, the state of Florida, and the Kennedy family said, we're going to change it back to Cape Canaveral because that's what the people want. And by gosh, do the same. If they can do it, the city of Lancaster can do it. Personally, I see Lancaster lagging a bit, and it hurts me to say that. 2 headlines I recently saw about the residency rate in Lancaster is twice that in Palmdale. The population in Palmdale is greater. These are not disasters, but I think you have warning signs. I'll get off here in a minute. That thing reminds me of the operating room when you hear that somebody died. The heart stopped or they stopped breathing. And I'm starting to do the same just hearing that. Personally, I like the name Memorial Park. But I think the name Central Park that a friend of mine mentioned to me a few days ago is fine. We don't have to honor just the Rowells. How about the Lanes, the Godys? There are many pioneers. Name it something like Memorial Park or Central Park if you wish. It's a quality of life issue for this city, for the valley. You're going to have a portion of it for the pioneers, a portion of it for those who have passed away. But for heaven's sakes, make it a prime area. And just one last point, I'm a native of New York City. Central Park is a major part of Manhattan Island. I remember as a child being in Central Park. That's a fine name. I prefer Memorial Park, but Central Park, with all the things that are in New York Central Park, we could do the same here. Thanks for your time.
Wendy Burke.
Hello, Mayor and City Councilman and staff. My name is Wendy Rowell Burke. My purpose in coming here tonight from Anchorage, was to assist in the goal of preserving local history. There are many wonderful early families who made many, many contributions in building the basis of much of what is very good in Lancaster today. In this case, I would like to focus on the previous 2 generations of my family, the Rowell family. Morris and Agnes Rowell came to Lancaster on Washington's birthday in 1924 with 3 boys, aged 3, 6, and 8. They made their home on a piece of property in the country, now Elm Kettering, and lived in a small frame house which had been moved in from Llano. The water table was high in those days. The property had an artesian lake with ducks. A neighbor parked his airplane on the property, which led to a lifelong passion for aeronautics in all 3 boys. My grandfather, Morris Rowell, began his job as principal of AV High and continued until his death in 1928. At that time, AV was the largest school district in the world, as chronicled in the National Geographic. He was instrumental in getting funds from the state for a junior college, and Antelope Valley Junior College had its first classes the fall after he passed away. My grandmother was left as a single parent at the beginning of the Depression with 3 young children. She taught English and algebra and started a program for pregnant teenagers. She was much beloved by the students, and I would hear from people in the community as I grew up here about her all the time. My father, Robert Rowell, when he was in JC, he realized he could make one of his mother's dreams come true. And so he started to research building an adobe house. She fell in love with an adobe house when they lived in the Bay Area, and she always talked about it, and this was his way of doing something for her. He researched the project, problem-solved the engineering, the chemical issues, and made over 5,000 bricks by hand with his brothers and a friend. The result is the house which stood on the corner of Elm and Kettering and was a source of pride to him until the day he died. My father's career spanned education, aeronautics, and rocketry, and he also worked at Cape Canaveral. It was during his time at Lockheed that he developed a string gauge system, which was patented by Lockheed, and put the F-104G on the line in Germany, monitoring the Iron Curtain and protecting our freedom 2 years ahead of schedule, of Lockheed's schedule. My Uncle Homer became a physician and returned to the valley with his wife Marguerite. He opened his practice in 1947. He went on to become Chief of Staff of Antelope Valley Hospital and Mira Loma Hospital. He had many, many other accomplishments, as you all probably have heard. One of my favorite memories of him was, for some reason, I was in the back seat of the car when we drove by an alfalfa field on the corner of J and 15th, and there was a for sale sign. And he thought that would be just the wonderful spot for a new hospital. So he went out and he collected $200 from every single doctor in town and put down a deposit. They put down the earnest.
Mrs. Rowell, I'm sorry. It's not Rowell, it's Burke.
I'm Burke, Wendy Burke, yes.
I have to ask you a question in order for you to keep talking.
Yes.
Okay. Consider that a question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate that. He collected the $200, and they put the earnest money down on the property, and the rest, as you all know, is history. Marguerite was very active in a multitude of ways. She was instrumental in establishing the Family Service Association, which metamorphosed into the Community Chest, and then became a founding member of the United Way, as well as a myriad of other contributions to our community. Richard, as has been well chronicled, graduated from Caltech and went on to serve under Butch O'Hare's unit during World War II off the Saratoga and then off the Lexington after Pearl Harbor. His achievements have been well chronicled in the Valley Press by Dale DeBry. He was lost in the Battle of the Coral Sea. The Navy honored him by naming a destroyer escort after him. There are many, many people who have made marvelous contributions and deserve to be honored. But this little corner of the world was the touchstone of this family. They had great dedication to the development and improvement of the educational community, a love of the desert, a passion for music, and a very active and personal commitment to the protection and freedom of the world community. On their behalf, I humbly thank all of those who recognize their contributions and honor them in continuing their advocacy for naming the future park the Rowell Family Park. Thank you for your time.
And Dale DeBry.
Well, that's a hard act to follow, so I'll be brief. I want to thank Wendy for flying down from Anchorage, Alaska, just to speak her 3+ minutes, speak her piece for her family. As director with the West Antelope Valley Historical Society and member of the Los Angeles Conservancy, I want to make the following very clear to you. This was not originally about changing the name of James C. Gilley Park, and this is also not a meaningless distraction. Although many members of this community were not too happy about the name of the park, we were okay with it until January 14, 2009, when you destroyed the Rowell Adobe home and every trace of their family's existence. It seems as if we are losing our history and any ties with the past as each and every day passes by us. In the Antelope Valley Press October 2006 edition, Lancaster's assistant city manager is quoted as saying, "In case there's some worry out there in this community, the Rowell house itself is going to be retained. The city will restore the house's exterior and landscape the surrounding yard so visitors can view it from the outside. The house was on a register of historic homes with a local significance, and yet it was torn down anyway, just about under cloak at night at 7 o'clock in the morning, with nobody being told at all about it. What is unfolding here in Lancaster and throughout the Antelope Valley is a tragedy. The willingness of a few people to sacrifice what gives this city its character and identity to make way for progress is very disturbing. If the United States can name a ship after Ensign Richard Merrill Rowell, and Chicago's O'Hare International Airport can have an airplane, a huge display and plaque honoring Richard and his crew, then why can't Lancaster name the park Rowell Memorial Park? Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the public comment. Let's close the public hearing. And Mr. Cilio, I think it goes to you.
Great. I am both, in one way, an old-timer, and one way, a newcomer here. I am the old-timer on the city council. I am the only one who was here when we named the park across the street for James C. Gilley. I'm also the newcomer, and then I moved up here in 1982, which makes me the kid up here. We're faced with another balance. I'm assuming, based on the agenda items, that there will be a motion at some point in time to rename the National Soccer Center or something at the National Soccer Center after Mr. Gilly. When we named the park across the street after Jim, we did so for a number of reasons, and I'll get into those. But before I would even entertain the thought of changing the name of the park, I had to call the man that we named the park after. And because you can't name a facility after someone and then yank it out from underneath them unless they've committed some gross perversion, as far as I can.
Or even a small perversion.
Or even a small perversion. We won't touch that. So I did call Jim, and I said, Jim, where are you at with this? And he said, it was a great honor to have the park named after him. And he also told us to do what we needed to do to move the city forward. So that kind of reasoning is why Jim had a park named after him in the first place. I don't think, I know I didn't until I became involved in local government. I don't think I understood the importance of a city manager. We've heard it in the newspaper, we've heard it up here, we hear it on the streets, we see it in letters to the editor. I don't think a city employee should have a park named after him. And generally that's true. But a city manager holds a different type of position. Everyone below a city manager works for the city manager. All they have to do is do their job well. They'll retire with a good pension. A city manager has to do something else. He has to do his job well, and survive political reality. We can go back just a couple of years, and there may be some contention here, but a good city manager who did good things, who created economic reserves that we so desperately need right now, foresaw this economy coming, but he couldn't survive political reality in this city. Jim did. Jim was so good, they bought him out, they brought him back. This city, you have to understand, we're trying to grow a city here in incredibly difficult realities. Yes, it's a 100 square mile city. Yes, there's 145,000 people here, but we're almost doing it in a vacuum. We're not surrounded by other cities. There's only one other city we can draw money from. When you bring a retailer or a developer out here, they come out here and they see the edge of the known universe. You go west and east and north and you see empty desert. Jim, in good times and bad times, kept this city afloat economically. We can look around our state and see at least one city that hasn't kept afloat economically. They've filed for bankruptcy. We have public facilities, and we all know what they are. Library, Sheriff's Department, Sheriff's Station, Chet Hawk Stadium, retailers that have saved our butt financially over the years are here because Jim was instrumental in putting those deals together, and he was great at that. You may like redevelopment, you may hate redevelopment, but Jim is a star at redevelopment. No one in this state would argue that. When you sit up here and you see what actually goes on in making a deal and making it work and bringing things to citizens that they want, they cost money. You got to put deals together to make those things happen. Jim was excellent at that. And the last gem in his crown when he left here was that we named the park after him. I think it was a good thing to do. Since Jim's okay with changing the name of the park in exchange for something else, I'm okay with that. Now we're left with the difficult decision. What do we name the park across the street? As Wendy Burke so eloquently put, the Rowell family has strong roots, multi-generational roots in this valley that I didn't know, but hey, I just got here in '82. I'm just a new kid. But I also believe that there are probably other families in this valley that have at least similar backgrounds. And again, I got here in '82. I couldn't tell you who they all are, but I don't know, the Godys or the Rotmans, or there are a number of families that really founded the Antelope Valley. That their families have been here through thick and thin. Who remember when there were artesian wells and water was just on top of the ground. I hope we can craft a name and a facility that can honor everyone that's been discussed tonight. The concept of an American Heroes Park is great. We need to honor those who give their lives, whether they be veterans, military, missing in action, firefighters, police officers, and those who literally put their lives on the line so that we can enjoy the freedoms we have. We also need to honor our pioneering families. I guess I want to see some discussion. Is there a way to do both? My gut says American Heroes Memorial Park, and you have a corner for veterans, a corner for law enforcement firefighters, a corner for pioneering families. I'd like to hear how you guys feel about that.
Well, let me start. I do think it's wrong to take something away from somebody. I just do. You don't give it to somebody and take it away. Would I have made that decision if I was mayor at the time? I don't think I would have. I think that I probably would have put it to a committee to come up with some options for us to decide, and that's normally how I do things. I really resent Dr. Manning coming up here and saying that this council is not representative of this community, because occasionally people will disagree with us. We have over 25 people on commissions that are actively involved in running this city. First time in history that's ever occurred. I dare say that the hospital that you sit on doesn't have nearly that citizen involvement. And for you to just make the pronouncement that it's the general belief that this city doesn't represent people, I would suggest to you that that might be the belief of the friends you hang with. But I will tell you now that Ricky Clutter in front of you will tell you that that is not his belief, and he represents the business community. We probably spend, Ron and I, about 40 hours a week meeting with people in this city, trying to get them involved, assisting them in being involved, and listening to what they have to say and working with them. I don't have any more time to do that, but I guarantee you, John Manning, that you do not put that level of time in getting the citizen involvement in the hospital, and it offends me. It hurts me to hear you come in and say that. I don't think it's true. I'll probably have to run another poll. I know the last poll I did do is 69% approve of how we're running this city. 69%. I just can't let you get away with it. I just cannot let you get away with saying that. What occurred a year ago is not my concern. It just isn't. All I can do after I got elected was do everything I could to involve people in their city. And I think I'm doing a pretty good job at that, and we have more to come. And if that doesn't meet your satisfaction, I really don't care. I just don't care. I do not want people from Palmdale coming into Lancaster and telling us how to run our city. Now, these folks do have a right to be angry. They do. I mean, it's a hangover from the Bob LaSala days. There's no question about that. Mr. Pelka made it clear. Everybody's still a little upset about that. I would have made the decision to get rid of him, but that wasn't my decision either. But I think the city manager we have now is doing 10 times the job that Bob LaSala did. That being said, let's deal with the issue of the park. My vote is, if we give it to somebody, we don't take it away. That's just how I believe. I did like the idea of Warford's article. Bill Warford wrote an article and suggested the soccer center. okay, now we're exchanging something of equal value. I can live with that. That might just be my legal training. You know, there is such a thing as precedent. And when, you know, I mean, I just look at things legally and how judges do it and how courts do it. And once they make a decision, you try to stay with it unless the circumstances have changed to the point that you have to change. As to the Rowell family, I just don't know them. I mean, before John Manning wrote his letter, I hadn't heard of them. Now, I'm not the most educated guy in the world, and I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. But before I make a decision as to naming a park after anyone, I want to know who else is in the contention. How's the decision to be made? Who else is in the running? You know, to just take the name that, 10 people, 20 people come and like, doesn't mean that's not worthy of it. I just don't know. I like the idea of the Historical Society being involved in the decision. I would like them to be more involved. I think that there's that group from the Historical Society that, because of the La Sala issue, haven't really engaged the current council, and I would invite you to. But what I would really invite you to do is engage us, and not just assume that we're somehow against you. If that decision about the Rowell family home had been brought before us, we would have been able to decide it. It was not. It wasn't a secret that we were building a park there. I'm not faulting anybody for it, but to come in and be angry at us for a decision that this council did not make, I don't think is appropriate, especially when somebody didn't put the decision in front of us. There's 5 of us that can put anything on the agenda. To my knowledge, nobody came to any member of this council and asked that that be put on the agenda. Perhaps we should... I'm sorry. Okay, and I totally get that, and that's why I say you do have a right to be angry. You do. If you read that in the paper, you have a right to rely on that. But what I'm saying is this is all of our city. Do you really want to stay adverse all the time? Why aren't we engaged in discussing how to figure that out? If Darlene Peterson and I can work things out, I would suggest that any of us can. What to name this park? If we're going to change the name of it, you know, I met with a veteran's mother the other day who has his arm blown off, is a quadriplegic, can just move his fingers, is still alive, and has bed sores that go to the bone. All of that because of what happened in Iraq. I would probably throw his name into the mix as somebody we might want to name the park after, and he's alive. You know, I don't know anybody who's given a greater sacrifice to their country. And the city is embracing him and working with the family and trying to elevate his life as best we can. But I'm not saying I'm right. I don't know. I think perhaps we should have some kind of committee, come up with some options to do this. But again, I'm with Councilman Cilio, that I'm not taking something away from somebody that was given to them without an equitable exchange of some kind. I'm just not. Even though that may not have been my decision. Then that's just the way my mother, who's sitting to your left, raised me. When you give something to somebody, you don't take it away, and I just can't seem to get past that. You know, I like Councilman Smith's, Vice Mayor Smith's idea about the American Heroes idea. But there's also part of me that looks at it as that's because we don't want to make the hard decision of naming it after an individual or even a family, because then you have to tell other people no. So the sense I'm getting is we're throwing it all into the mix. And again, I don't know that I'm right. I don't know that I'm wrong. Perhaps this is something we should form a committee and make a fast decision about.
Mr. Mayor, if I could speak.
I'm not finished.
Okay.
But now you blew my thought. The problem I have with just naming it the Rowell Park tonight is exactly what Mr. Cilio said. There are a lot of families that have done a lot for this community, and I just don't know that it's appropriate. You know, I'm wondering about the aviation heroes that built this valley. I'm not so sure that it shouldn't be named Antonovich Park. I mean, nobody's given this city more than Mike Antonovich. He's responsible for the sheriff's station. He's responsible. I could go on and on and on. And all I'm saying is that there's a lot of options if you want to start renaming things. But let's be honest. I don't know that this would have came up if it wasn't for a group of people that really disliked Jim Gilley. And I'm not saying that's you. And I know I'm looking at you just because that's where I'm fixated at the moment. I mean, what about Jane Reynolds? What about Hall? What about, I mean, I just don't understand why the focus on this. Why not rename something else? I just don't understand it. And I just don't like it. I just don't like somebody being singled out by people who clearly have had a vendetta against him. And I'm not saying all of you, but let's be honest. There are some people in this audience that have a clear vendetta against Jim Gilley. And I just don't like that type of procedure. I think it takes us back to what we were doing a year ago. And as far as me saying it was insignificant, you know, when you're battling gangs, you're meeting with foreign countries to build factories in your city, and you're trying to get people jobs with an unemployment rate of 15%. It is a distraction to start changing the names of parks. It'd be different if a park needed to be named and it came before us. And although I probably could have used better words, I just want everyone here to understand that in the light of what this city is battling, I wish some of you folks were involved in those battles rather than what we name something. I just wish we had more help. That being said, what do you guys want to do?
Mr. Mayor, I was going to chime in. I don't know if you were going down that path. I don't think that really the four of us doing some reflection, because I did appreciate your comments, whether I read them in the paper or they're otherwise. I really think that in keeping with the current mode that you've directed the city with transparency, maybe we ought to come up with a group of volunteers and let them decide. Because I don't think that, given what we've said up here tonight, that any one of the four of us.
I want to be clear on that. I do not want to abdicate responsibility for making difficult decisions. I would like to see a committee that gave us options for which we will choose from, and we will be responsible and accountable for the decision.
Sure, would be open to that.
I disagree.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll tell you why. And the word you said, the words that you used were maybe the wrong ones, but what I see is my mic's on here. There you go. As everybody has said here tonight, there's a lot of people that we could name the park after, or the family. The gentleman said it gave his life. Okay. To me, we have the memorial on the boulevard for the Aerospace Walk of Honor. This park is going to connect right to that. Okay. We just lost a test pilot that gave his life. We have soldiers coming back that have just given their life. I mean, you can go to a life is a life that's been given, whether it's a police officer, whether it's Bain or Sorensen or Hammock or the two deputies that died over by the college in the car accident, or anybody else that's happened. And to me, you could get 10 people in a room, you can make any committee you want. And they're going to come up with 10 different names, and it's still going to be back here. And I would personally would like to put the issue to bed tonight make our decision, because we're the ones that have to make the tough decision. And I think we all have a plethora of ideas that you could name it. And I think my own, and that's why I brought it up, was American Heroes. And that could be for people that are alive, that have risked their life. We had a deputy that a pit bull was attacking an elderly man, and he covered his body with him. I mean, we have deputies and we have citizens that do things. They might not be in the armed service. They might not be a fireman, but they've risked their life for another fellow citizen. Maybe they need to be honored. I do appreciate the idea of the pioneers of the valley. For this particular park, I don't think so, only because I think it ties in with our Aerospace Walk of Honor and some of the things that we'd like to do that continues it. Do we look to the future to maybe say, as we create new parks, and say a pioneer park and honor the pioneers? There's a lot of pioneering families that have started here. I always say that if you've been here 50 years, then you are a newcomer, because unless your great grandfather was a farmer here, there's families that go way back. And so I'd like to see us there's a number of issues. The soccer center that, Bill Warford did say that, maybe the soccer center, I think Councilman Mann said something about naming something else, another facility after Mr. Gilley. I know both of you are opposed for taking something away unless it's still given. And I can remember I was silent when Jim Jeffra brought up the issue of changing the name of the park. And the reason why I was silent, I was new on the council, and there were 4 gentlemen sitting to my left that gave the name. And I said, if they want to give it and they want to take it away, that's up to them. I'm going to be quiet on it because I had nothing on that decision. But I would like to see us, we need to be focusing on a lot of things that we need to on the city, as the mayor has said. We're moving forward with leaps and bounds. From 2007, the first quarter, to this quarter here, the crime rate has dropped 35%. We need to keep focus. We have to keep our eye on the target. And it's not necessarily a distraction. It's a very emotional issue. And rather than have it fester, my motion would still be tonight to name it American Heroes Park, because it covers a vast amount of the citizens that have really given to this valley. And then we can talk about the soccer center and whatever we want to do that. I think the Rowells are going to be honored in a section of the park. There's going to be a historical monument. I don't think there's a historical monument for George Lane, or for the Lane Park, or for Jane Reynolds, or for Raleigh Duntley, or any of the other. We don't have a memorial that shows a historical history of those people, but we are in this park, and I think that would be my recommendation. Or if I need to make a motion later, that's what I want to do. But I don't think we need a citizens committee for that. I think we know what we have to do, and I think we want to. And I would like to cover the most people and make it contiguous with what we're doing in the downtown section.
I guess now that Ron and I are going to disagree, and I want to go back down that other avenue that the mayor suggested, and how a group of people come together and give the council 2 or 3 names. I think we need to get off of the one individual on the council, or for that matter, maybe 4. I think we need to broaden it out, let a group of people come up with 2 or 3 names, and then at that point, let us decide. And Mr. Mayor, I think that would be keeping with your policy that you've established since you've been here. So I'm quite impressed with the style in which you've tried to reach out to people, and I think that would be, to the people that are here tonight and the people that have communicated, I think that would be befitting.
We don't do disagreement very well.
we have one on one side and one on the other. So what do you want to do? Are we going to be a swing here?
Well, they can't pass it without us.
Well, I think what we need to, there's a number of things that we need to do, and it seems like they're all contingent
Connected.
on the other. And I don't think we're going to try to pull a fast one and say, let's rename Gilly Park and take it away, and then three of us vote, no, we're not going to name the soccer center after him. So let's just get everything clear and make no mistake about what we're doing.
This is what I would like to do. You guys decide. I mean, you can give me some feedback. What I would like to do is I'd like to put a time limit on it. I'd like to do, 3 weeks. We have, I mean, at the next council meeting, we'll have the names of the people for the committee, and then they will have 2 weeks to give us recommendations. And so we're looking at 2 council meetings before the decision is made. That is what I would like to do. But if there's not the votes for it, then we can just, somebody make a motion and we'll vote on it.
I would support that. Rex, if you wanted to make a motion, and whether we invited the Historical Society and people that you deemed appropriate.
Well, you know how committees are appointed. So before you do it, I mean, the law is very clear that I will appoint.
That's what I said.
And you will ratify.
That's what I said.
Okay.
Here's the problem that I think we're going to get in the committee. You're going to have a lot of people coming up. It's the Rowell Park. It's the this park, and it's going to be individual names again. I mean, other than that, you're going to have. I think if you look at the speaker's card, somebody said, call it Memorial Park, call it Pioneer Park, call it Central Park, call it AV. This. I think we're all smart enough to make a decision, and whether we like American Heroes or whether we want to call it Pioneer Park, this is not something. It's not like the Architectural Design Commission. It's not like the Planning Commission. I think we could get it done. I disagree with the mayor that if we go 3 weeks, if we go 4 weeks, the newspaper actually said, name it after the heroes. That's a good idea. If we go longer, I think the wound is still festers. There's people out there that I don't care what we say. The people in the front row here, and I feel for you, no matter what we say to you, it's Rowell Park. Like he said, it's always going to be called Rowell Park. Okay? I'd like to just put the Band-Aid on it, get it over with, and let's move on. And that's how I feel about it. And when Mr. Mann and I first talked, he seemed to be in agreement with me that there's other things to concentrate on. And that's
the only reason why I'm disagreeing with you is because we do have a historical society, and they do feel disengaged, and I feel disengaged with them. And that's why I would have somebody from that on it. That doesn't mean that they get their way, but it means you get to be engaged. And if there's some way we can heal that rift that was there with the prior council, I'd like to heal it. Doesn't mean we can't. I mean, I'll probably disagree with you, but at least we're engaged. And that's why I'm thinking that it's worth the time to spend. And that's my thought. But somebody's got to make a motion, and then we have to start voting.
So I will make a motion to defer to the stated way to arrive at.
But before you, let me interrupt.
Sure.
I want to, it's not that I disagree with your solution to this. I know how much time you put into this, and I know how much work you put into it. And it's not that I disagree with it, but what I don't want to do is miss the opportunity these are people who want to be involved in the city, and this is a way, I think, to start that involvement. And that's the only reason I'm doing it.
Right, and I agree with you, but this is where I disagree with what I think you're seeing on this, is that they don't want to name it something else other than Rowell Park.
Well, I don't care what I don't care what the final solution is in regards to that. But I do think they're entitled to input. And that's all I'm saying, as other people are.
And we have taken, and I believe we have taken their input. They want to name it Rowell Park. I think we could have them all raise their hand, and they all want to name it Rowell Park, and they don't want to name it some generic name of American Heroes, Pioneer, or whatever like that. Let me make another suggestion.
But the same thing applies to you.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. That's not what I intended. What everybody has. I mean, for whatever reason, I misread it. Usually I can read where people are at. I misread the emotion and wrapped up around this. So whenever that's the case, let's throw it in the room and let's let
I
people
would- let me make-
Do the dance.
Let me make, before he makes his motion, let me make a suggestion on this thing. So that way you can have your committee.
And if I can get a word in edgewise after that, I'd
Yeah,
appreciate
sure.
that.
Just jump right in there. Yeah. Okay. So because this is why we put it all.
We did
three.
5-0 votes, much better.
This is why we put all three agenda items together, and trying to settle all of it at the same time. So let me just throw another mix in here that maybe we can get your committee, we could get these people input and everything, and get the same thing. What's the name of the big park that we have the Poppy Festival at?
Lancaster City Park.
Why don't we just heal the wound on this Gilly Park tonight, form a committee, and rename that park, and come up with something that people and you can engage and spend even a longer time and say, look, it might be Pioneer Park. We might have places in there where we honor the many families, or some, and also engage them and say, look, we're going to change the policy the way we name future parks. And let's look at the new parks and engage the Historical Society. Just throwing it out there, because I really would like to get this done tonight and not have to read more letters in the, because no matter what we do, we're going to have some people upset at us. So.
But I'm dying to find out what the people in Little Rock and Pear Blossom think we should name our park.
Mayor, may I?
The flag. Mr. Silius.
I'm okay with a commission or a committee to see about renaming a park or a facility, whether it be for Rowell's, pioneering families. Vice Mayor Smith, I think, made a very good argument that tying in this park with what already exists downtown in the form of American Heroes Park, I think works.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying that apparently other people want to be involved.
Whether we vote on that or not, I'm sort of now genetically predisposed to naming it American Heroes Park, unless, again, it's just the four of us, this committee comes up with a better reason, a better name. It's hard to think on the fly here, naming a facility. Just know that that's where I'm coming from. I think Ron is right on this.
Bob, could you mark this down that Rex and Ken are in agreement, and Ed and I are on one side here. So that's almost like Steve Knight and Ledford being together and down in there in Palmville recently. So
we have to move on. Make your motion.
So my motion is to support the recommendation that the mayor made, which would be to have him come up with a group of names, to come up with a solution of recommendation to the city council of 2 or 3 names for that park, which is located downtown.
I'll second it.
And I'm just going to say ahead of time, I'm not going to support it, only because I think we should form a commission for all the future parks and maybe Lancaster City Park. I want the citizens involved, but on this one, I think we need to tie it in with Lancaster Boulevard and what we're doing downtown and move on.
Okay.
I would agree, Ron, that I like the name you selected, and I think a committee to decide how we implement pioneering families and heroes into the park would be appropriate.
Could I get a reading back of the motion so I understand what it is?
Okay, Councilmember Mann made a motion to appoint a committee to come back with 2 or 3 names for the council to decide on.
Okay. Now, is the composition and number of people on the committee left up to me?
Correct.
Okay.
So, I'll make a motion that we name we take the name James C. Gilly Park. I think the next motion is going to be the soccer center of naming it after James C. Gilly, and I'm going to say ahead of time that I will accept that, seeing that I see the mayor and the other council members saying that they want to move forward with that, and I don't want to take it away if they think they're going to be voting to take it away, if I end up saying, well, nah, sorry, gotcha. So I'm going to say ahead of time I'll support your motions on the soccer center, but I'm going to move that we name the James C. Gilly Park and change the name to American Heroes Park.
I'll second that.
Three to 1 with Mr. Mann dissenting.
So what's the next step?
You guys were talking about the soccer center.
I would move to name the Lancaster National Soccer Center the James C. Gilley Lancaster National Soccer Center, with the understanding that I don't want to mess with the branding of it, that this will be the monument that this will be the signage that appears at the soccer center. It will not extend to the branding of it elsewhere, right? Everybody understand the motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Do we have to do it again?
We're good.
It's 3-1 with Mr. Mann in opposition. Is there another motion in regards to a committee to look at any other naming situations? And perhaps what we ought to look at is a policy.
Right, and we have
So
a
we're not-
policy on the books now, so maybe we need to bring it back, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, well, do you want to have a committee to look at that?
And Mr. McEwen's going to jump in there. We have like about a 3-page policy that at least Ed and I were on, the council that we voted on. So maybe we need to bring it back and change it so we involve the citizens and involve the Historical Society.
We need to put it on the agenda anyway.
Yeah, we need to put this on the agenda. It's not on tonight's agenda to go
Right.
beyond either the soccer center or Gilley Park.
I agree with the mayor on that we bring that back and we have the discussion on that, on how we form the committee and how we involve the citizens and involve the Historical Society.
Okay, thank you. Let's get that on the agenda for the next meeting. Okay, thank you.
Are you still open to citizen input, some sort of committee, as to how we integrate these things into American Heroes Park?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we should do American Heroes Park in a really big way, and in a way that honors as many people as we can, and as visually as we can. I think it should be a huge thing. But I tell me if I can do this now. What I would like to do is seal this somehow contractually with Mr. Gilley so they don't come in and steal the name again. Well, let me retract that. So they don't come in and change the name again. Can he buy the name?
I'll have to research that. I'm not convinced that we could contract that right away.
Okay, thank you.
Future councilman.
I just don't want this up here 6 months from now again. Okay?
I understand.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, there was one more thing in mind, and I think that'll take care of what you were just asking for, and Councilman Cilia is I have on my agenda item the creation of a park monument. Now, we can vote on that tonight, so I would move that we move forward on the creation of the park monument in the honor that we're doing, and look at forming the Citizens Committee and the input and giving staff direction on what you want for the creation, or in a big way, as you said, of the American Heroes Park.
I'll second that.
When we had sort of
I would rather give this to the committee to come back with.
That's what he said.
Right.
Okay. Well, let me hear the motion again.
Okay,
So it's
I have
clear.
on here that we create a park monument there
Right.
for the American heroes. And you said, let's involve the citizens.
Right.
And the mayor said, yeah, in a big way so that we do it right and honor the people that we need to do. Some person said a bush here and a bush here. I think that was Darlene. I think they need more than a bush.
So your motion is?
The motion is that we create a monument for the American heroes in the park, but we involve this form of citizens committee
okay. Gotcha.
to look at how we're going to create that, and that would be up to the mayor to make those decisions and who would do it.
Mr. Mayor,
We
if
have
I
a
may
second?
just...
Do I have to open that to a public?
No, I just wanted some clarification from staff's perspective. It would be our strong recommendation that we move forward. We're about ready to bid this park, and any change we do in a change order, because we want to take advantage of the current bidding climate. We're ready to go. We have the funds set. We would go forward, and we can accommodate anything a commission or committee would come up with a change order. but it'd be our intent to move forward.
Right.
Yes, that's correct.
And any committee would bring it back to it would be a recommendation and bring it back to the council, and we'd have to vote on it for the appropriations.
Just so we're clear, for the Historical Society, or what's the name?
Valley Historical Society.
So Historical Society is the correct. Okay, good. I would like you to have somebody quickly that can be on that committee, so that next meeting I can appoint it and they can move with all due haste, because of the longer we wait for a change order, the more it costs. Okay. And any other ideas you have that would be representative of the city. Okay. That's good. Let's vote. Thank you.
I just have one question for Mr. Mann, because maybe we didn't let you put your input. You voted no against Lancaster, James C. Gilley National Soccer Center, but you had said in the newspaper, named some facility out of him. So what was your idea?
Well, we didn't discuss it to great length, so my thought was, and I'm not quite for sure if we'll accomplish what we want to do given the mayor's comment, is I felt that it was critical with the branding of the National Soccer Center to try to change or modify that. Had maybe somebody suggested one of the fields or maybe another facility. I don't have my hat hung on the fact that, again, I think that this year, next year, we may still be doing some housekeeping, maybe on some things that maybe hadn't been handled correctly, but that was my thought.
Okay. No, because I think the mayor was clear that we're not changing the branding in any way.
I understand that.
So, okay.
But that was where my concern came from, was...
Okay.
That's the caveat that led me to support it.
Because you didn't say anything, but I saw no vote, so I just
Right.
wanted to make sure.
Well, it's good that you clarified that, so...
All right.
Mr.
moving
Mayor?
on.
Mr.
Yes,
Mayor,
sir.
would you like us to also put on the website, as we've done in the past, the ability for other people to volunteer?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, could we take a quick recess?
We can. All right, let's keep it 5 minutes, okay?
Real 5 minutes.
I want to take one. We have, let's see here. Yeah, well, if we can, I'd like to, without dissension. Oh, by the way, let the record reflect that Mayor Paris has now left the room, and he's gone for the rest of the meeting, and he's handed the chair over to myself. If there's no objection, I'd like to take RNB 1, the acquisition and operating and use covenant restrictions covenant, if we could. No objection. Mr. Lawson, can we have the staff report, please?
I'll make this brief due to the lateness of the hour. Tonight, we're asking the Redevelopment Agency and City Council to approve an agreement between the Redevelopment Agency and Lancaster Honda. Basically, the agreement is we are purchasing a covenant to require the dealership to operate for 30 years as a Honda store, and we are also requiring renovation of the property, and then there's a clause that would incentivize the building of a new store, should that be the desire of the dealer. Our participation for the purchase will be $2 million, $1 million now, and $1 million a year from now, and then an additional $500,000 should a new store be built. We think this deal makes sense. In the National Automobile Dealership Association indicates there'll probably be 600 dealerships closed in the United States this year. We certainly don't want that to be occurring in our Lancaster Auto Mall. We're delighted that a couple of long-term businessmen have come out of retirement to step up and take this store into the future. They are present tonight, Mr. Rick Clutter and Ed Qualick. We've had a number of agreements with these people. They've done everything they've always said they would do, so we're happy about that. In 2008, Honda sold 3.8 million cars nationwide. We want to make sure that in the future they sell hundreds of cars in Lancaster. So That's my report. Be happy to answer any questions, and I'm sure they would too.
Yeah, if I could just add something to that. Mr. Clutter has been, I talked to him previously, we're trying to, our city trying to be ahead of the curve there and being green and everything. He's actually got the authorization. He's building a public facility for CNG for the Hondas that he'll be selling. We're going to be working with him on the AQMD on getting those sold. So that's a big asset to our city. Yes, Mr. Bazigian.
I'd just like to add one thing to Mr. Lawson's report, is that the city couldn't be prouder to propose to you a partnership with these two gentlemen. They've done everything they said they were going to do. They've been here for us, and we're fortunate to have that quality of individuals to partner with.
No, absolutely. And he has the coolest looking pickup truck that you've ever seen. That was at the Poppy Festival.
So if there's no other discussion, I will move that we make the recommendation to authorize the executive director or his designee to execute an agreement regarding the acquisition and the operating of the use covenant and restriction regarding Clutter Motors.
I'll second that.
Call for a vote. It's unanimous.
What's your pleasure for next?
Yes, now we're going to take the CJPH1.
Mr. Vice Mayor, we've recommended that that be canceled, and we'll renotice it at a future date.
Okay. Next, we have public hearing number 1. I'll open up the public hearing. Do we have a staff report? That would be from Ms. Brubaker.
I'll make this very brief since it's late. Before you tonight is a recommendation to approve a substantial amendment for the Homeless Prevention and Rapid Rehousing Program grant pursuant to the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009. City of Lancaster is being offered a grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in the amount of $564,646 for the subject housing grant. To receive this funding, the submittal of a substantial amendment to the 2008 CDBG Action Plan is required by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The main purpose of the grant is to provide prevention assistance to individuals and families who would otherwise become homeless and to provide assistance to rapidly rehouse such individuals and families. The funding is designed to serve a short-term means for those in imminent danger of becoming homeless to move into permanent housing. Staff recommends that the City Council approve this substantial amendment to the 2008 CDBG Action Plan in order to receive Homeless Prevention and Rapid Rehousing Program grant funds.
Any questions from the council?
So they want to give us $500,000 to help people from becoming homeless.
Yeah.
Move adoption of the substantial amendment as suggested in the staff report.
Do I hear a second?
I will second that.
Call for vote. Oh, you know what? That's right. I have one. You didn't pull the vote yet? Okay, we can still have that. Okay. Ms. Diane Grooms, I apologize.
I can't imagine she'll be against it.
I mean, Liz was getting me going. It was going so fast.
Yeah, and I appreciate the time as well. I will be quick as well. I'm here as a trustee of Lancaster School District, and I heartily support this opportunity to help families who have been affected by the economic circumstances. And I wanted to make you aware of some of the financial issues of homeless families in our area. We have found that families who are homeless often are homeless for less than $3,000. And this is a national statistic that has been proven in one community after another. But additionally, students are displaced out of their home school when their family becomes homeless and typically are not in school for 6 to 8 weeks. So if you have one child in a family and they miss that amount of time in school, the district loses about $2,300 for that time period. Plus, the student, of course, academically is really suffering, and the student probably will not be able to regain that particular school year. So it's very valuable and important to us as a school district that we'd be able to give some resources to families who have helped. I took a straw poll of members of the Antelope Valley Homeless Coalition last week and asked, who would you like to see get extra consideration for these funds? And they, number one, said families who have been employed but are not at this moment and are actively looking for work, returning veterans, seniors, single women who are pregnant and late in their pregnancy when they are typically not employable, and those who are facing foreclosures due to the landlord losing the house. Who they would not like to see supported with these funds are people who are chronically homeless, who are repeat users of our programs, who are on long-term welfare benefits. What we want to do is really see the opportunity for the city to be able to provide some of these funds for some of these families who are on the edge. The County of Los Angeles has come out with their recommendations, and it's basically to support the same programs that they are already supporting, nothing new. So I would really hope that we can use this in a new way and really try something different with these funds.
Well, knowing Liz, it probably will be used in a very new and interesting way. So we have a second, and we have a motion and a second. A call for a vote. Thank you, Diane. It's unanimous. Public hearing number 2. I'll open up the public hearing, and Ms. Brubaker again.
Okay, I'll make this quick too.
Good.
The City of Lancaster has been a CDBG entitlement community since 1986 and receives an annual grant for developing viable urban communities that encompasses decent housing and a suitable living environment and expanded economic opportunities primarily for low and moderate income persons. The proposed one-year action plan is intended to provide a summary of proposed program activities, eligibility criteria, and funding levels for the 2009 CDBG program year. All programs and/or projects submitted in the plan are in compliance with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development guidelines for eligible activities. The proposed projects are administration of the program, fair housing services required by HUD, repayment of several Section 108 loans for previous projects, 2 code enforcement officers, Parks, Recreation, Arts fee waiver program, the Lancaster Cares program, and for rehabilitation and improvement projects in the primary and secondary
30
neighborhoods.
seconds.
I'm finishing. I'm almost done. The recommendation is to approve the proposed projects described herein for the City of Lancaster's 2009 one-year action plan application to be submitted to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. Done.
Any questions for Ms. Brubaker?
No, sir.
Do I hear a motion and a second?
Move to approve the proposed projects in the staff recommendation.
Second's up to you.
I second that.
Call for a vote. It's unanimous. At this time, council, we're going to excuse our city attorney. He needs to get to an urgent meeting because he's not needed on any of the other public hearings. So, back to CC8 and CC9 that was pulled. We have one speaker card. Nicole Parson. You're on. And Nicole, CC8 and CC9, okay? Make sure you're on point. Are you going to give us our binder back when you're done?
Sweet.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. You know, can I borrow someone's agenda? I can't see. I seem to have lost mine. But I asked for it separate. But can I separate though? Okay, thanks. Okay.
Glex has an extra copy.
So what are you guys doing? Trying to pass this tonight? Or council? Are you guys trying to pass this tonight or?
We're on CC8 and CC9.
CC8 and CC9.
Okay.
Yes, we are trying to pass them tonight.
Okay, that conveyance is sort of, okay, so, wait, why is it already at 2:30?
Because you've been talking the whole
I
time.
have not been talking for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Oh, 30 seconds, okay.
Yeah.
This is part of, the Armagosa Creek, project, where, because Well,
I
okay,
don't
right
think this
here,
is
it
Armagosa
says,
Creek, right? This is not Armagosa Creek, Ms. Parsons.
I think so because, sir,
On which one here?
because on CC8,
Oh, in the middle of it.
Um,
Okay.
they have all these projects and that go to CC8, and so that's part of Armagosa, which is sort of tied in. And I know that we're supposed to do environmental impact because Armagosa, it's supposed to be it's a recharge, and I don't know, groundwater recharge. And so it looks like this project is tied in, the tank system is tied in to Armagosa, and I don't agree with that. I don't think that you guys can like really pass that, and I don't think that you guys should go any further. And I also want to ask that Mr. McKeon, he held back 500 or like some money for the design and the construction of like some phases of our water project, and I just want to ask, since the whole design is just all wrong, and not only, like right now, I just, for 2 years, I've been designing the water project, but right now I just had to redesign the whole conveyance system for all of California. Okay, the tank system is giving recycled water to this place right here. I forgot what I was going to say. What was I going to say? Groundwater. Okay, this is all wrong. You can't do this because it says that the project is satisfied for the conveyor of Los Angeles County Waterworks 40. That's not right. It's sanitation district, and it goes that it was satisfied by Public Works. That's not right because Public Works.
Thank you, Nicole.
This is 2 projects. Unless you want to call me back this is for 8 or 9. Because unless you want to call me back.
You only put one card in.
No, but I put it as separate.
You only put one.
Okay, but if
3
you
minutes
pass
per
it,
card.
but if you pass it, it's very deceptive. It's very, very deceptive.
Thanks, Nicole.
Nothing is right.
Do I hear a motion on CC8 and CC9?
Move adoption CC8 and CC9.
Hear a second?
I second that.
Call for a vote. That's unanimous. City Manager, any, Madam Clerk, did I cover all the?
Did we cover the rest of the
pink
CCs?
notes?
Yeah, we were around there.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay. So, Mr. City Manager, do you have any announcements?
No, sir.
Madam Clerk?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the time for you to address the council on any item that is not on the agenda. You'll find speaker cards at the back of the council chambers. You have 3 minutes in which to address the council. When you come forward, you'll see 3 lights. The green light comes on when your time begins, the yellow light when you have 30 seconds left, and the red light when your time is up. We do ask that you be courteous of the allotted time to allow other speakers to have their 3 minutes as well. State law prohibits the council from taking action on any items that are not on the agenda, and if necessary, the council will refer your item to the city manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. First speaker, Mr. Paul.
Mr. Vice Mayor and remaining council members, the 3 main people that I wanted to address in this portion are gone. I did want to talk a little bit about the sick, the poor, and the disabled. And tonight I think you're going to hear a few people talk about safe access for medical marijuana. Since I spoke here last week, the governor has come out and said we need to look at this and explore it. I heard one of the commentators on TV say that that's the way for a politician. When they say they don't support it but study it, they really mean that they're for it but they don't have the support yet. So all my reasons remain the same. The taxation that is lost by inaction, the funding of the drug cartels that exist because we don't take action. All these things are still here, and I think that this is not the end of it. I would like someone to tell me, you don't have to take action, but if someone would just do me the honor of telling me if there's anything in the works with the city that's currently going on, so I don't replicate efforts to try and get you information. That information would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Edward Schroeder, it looks like.
I wanted to address something like about the traffic light situations on the walk signs. I went to the movies with my ex-landlady a couple weeks ago. I went to Cinemark, and we almost got hit going to the movie theater because the traffic lights don't turn fast enough, they're slow enough, so for handicapped people. And I just want to know if you can make an improvement on that, because that would be good. Maybe make them run like a half a minute more or something like that. Because that's what I wanted to ask, if you could do that.
Well, there's a fine science to the street light stuff, and we have an engineer that's really good at it. But afterwards, the city manager, Mark Bazigian, he'll take your name, and if you can give him a specific intersection. No, not right now. After the meeting, give him a specific. Give him the specific. Can you tell us a specific intersection? Which one was it?
It's Central Valley Way and Avenue Y. It's right at the corner of the Cinemark Theater.
Okay, we'll look at that, and we'll have the city manager look at that.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. Next speaker, Darlene Peterson. Darlene Washington, or Darlene, I think, or Darlena Washington. Merlini Coker?
Melanie Coker.
Melanie Coker, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I know you've had a lot of important issues here tonight, and I just wanted to, I never did this before. Where was I? Okay. I've been living in Lancaster for the past 20 years. I've had a cleaning business for 14 years and a drywall business for 9 years. In the past 3 years, have gotten into the medical marijuana area, and I wanted to point out something that I don't want to happen because we will be on your calendar, and that's all I can say about that. But I want to point out that there is a medical marijuana clinic open in Quartz Hill. It is through LA County. They do not have a permit, and what I want to point out here is I don't want their negativity kind of like, messing with what we're trying to do here. And, they opened on May 2nd. They do not have a permit to operate there. And we have been I've been working with City Hall for quite a long time through the business license area and through our city attorney, Dave McEwen. And from my understanding, we will be put on your calendar. And I just want anything that they do negative to reflect against the way that we would run it properly. And I just want to say that so that it's getting in there.
Okay. Well, any problems you have with that particular facility, you need to call Norm Hickling with Mike Antanovich's office.
Yes, I have already inquired into that.
Okay, thank you. Victoria Zavala.
Good evening, everybody who's left. I feel this is somewhat pointless, but hopefully Mayor Paris is still watching this on TV. Again, I come here before you with a very big concern and helps with some form of answer or some type of conclusion. I don't know if you heard anything in regards to Tax and Regulate Cannabis 2010. In 2010, this is going to be on the ballot. Basically, what I'm coming for is not just to advocate and bring awareness and education, and as I had before, Mr. Celio, I do have that information that you did request on a more personal and professional. I would like to get together with somebody. The mayor just did say that he wants people to get involved. That's what I'm here for, to bring safe access to the Antelope Valley the proper way, the medicinal way, the clinical way, in a wellness center. I'm proposing here today, is there a way that we could get this on the agenda the next 2 weeks? Who can I sit with and how can I do this? If I were to walk into my City Hall and get a permit, what's the next step for us? I mean, basically, what we're looking for, safe access. We had over 24 patients sitting here. They all have ailments. They couldn't handle 3 hours. I've been here before, again, like I said, not with just the Poppy Festival, not with just the Veterans Fall Festival, but with invites now, with Pride Festival going on, and with Heritage Festival. So we're here to educate, advocate, bring awareness. We're not just popping up and opening up a shop like the way Quartz Hill has. At this point, I agree with Melanie. I don't want that to reflect on what we've been working on here, you know, the history in a year with alternative healing. That's our collective. Our collective is here. I have a personal story from Mayor Paris. He's not here, unfortunately, how he has a commercial about these pharmaceutical drugs. Well, we have a patient who suffers not only from anorexia, but from depression. She lost her 17-year-old son to Oxycontin, a pill that we could get in our medicine cabinets. Maybe somebody's taking it for pill, you know, for pain or whatever. But this pill killed a 17-year-old boy who was involved in the band, was going to high school, everything was fine. They got a few pills, some kids, his, you know, and there it is. So she would never go to any type of pharmaceutical drug. I'm asking you here today, as a patient, as a tax-paying mother, a woman, 36-year-old with a daughter, I have a future here in Lancaster, and I want my future here to be good and upholding with the local law enforcement and to not recognize us as illicit bad things here for the Antelope Valley. We want safe access for the Antelope Valley, so I'm hoping that some form of answer or conclusion. I've been here before, like I said, and we're just looking to get put on the agenda or some form of meeting or collective organization. Thank you.
Two things that I have to tell you. That one is that in order for a citizen to get something on the agenda, they have to have somebody on the council sponsor it. Okay. Secondly, even if that council member did sponsor it, if it came on, probably the majority of the council is going to ask staff to give us the research and the information that Mayor Paris has already asked for. So that's your answer. So if you want to
And we're
privately,
ready for it.
if you want to contact one of the council members and they want to sponsor it and put it on, that's how it gets on. But until that time, I know the mayor has requested some information, and he's going to be looking into it. So thank you very much.
Ms. Zavala, just so we have this on public record, what you and I discussed, said for me to seriously consider medical marijuana, I want to see a double-blind study on the efficacy of medical marijuana published in a reputable medical journal. I don't have that yet.
Okay, I do have that. In fact, in February of 2007, if I could just be allotted a little bit more time, ASA filed a lawsuit to the date of
Let me tell you.
So,
Not public testimony, but
Okay.
Councilman Silly would.
All I want you to do is get me a copy of that.
Okay.
Okay?
Perfect.
And then we can talk.
Thank you.
Thank you. Amber Goss. There's a name here, and the writing is bad. I can't even read it. But it says something. Speaker's address is on Galander. I asked for it before. Anybody out there that wrote they live at Galander? I can't see it. Maybe you guys can. Nope. Give it to you.
What are you giving it to me for?
Call the name
He's
for
got
me.
the glasses. No, it looks like Galander.
I mean, what's the name? I can't read the name, so.
I don't know.
Yeah. Is there somebody that lives on Galander? Okay, next. Eric Baruchino?
We butcher that one every 2 weeks.
How do you say your name, sir?
It's B.R. Shingo.
B.R. Shingo.
So you can go all over this valley or city, by the way, and find more than enough space to put in any super centers as possible. If you drive out there, you can see all this land that's available. You can go all over this valley and see not one school, even high school, that's close to a major supercenter. I think the closest has to be Palmdale High School, which has something in the back, but it's not like right up against them. And to put this not only that, you can there's enough space to put it just east of this area where it's thought about being put. And the mayor said in his article about the park, saying he does not want to overturn something a previous council has decided to vote on. And that's the same situation here. A council decides to make that area just residential. So that should be put into accounts. But when we have more than enough space to put something somewhere else, I really think that decision was really overlooked and should be looked over again. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Scott.
Thank you everyone for your time. And for those people that have only spoken once, I've done this a number of times and I still have butterflies in my stomach. I heard that the claim was in choosing to rezone the land across the street from the Quartz Hill High School to allow commercial is to make the city safer. How can building 2 commercial supercenters across from a high school and kitty corner to a junior high school make the community safer? It would increase traffic hazards, introduce crime to the community. Will the sales tax dollars generated by these projects be used to police this community? Or will the new hired sheriffs be assigned to existing crime-ridden neighborhoods? Isn't it cheaper to not create the problem to begin with than it is to clean up the problem? The council claims it has the responsibility to protect the citizens. How does building a supercenter protect citizens? Which citizens? Rezoning the commercial does not protect the children attending the residential high school or the junior high school. It exposes them to sexual predators lurking in the parking lots, waiting to snatch a kid walking to or from school. It gives the children an opportunity to become a robbery victim, harassed by gang members, hanging out or be harmed by some other criminal activity spilling into the school zone. Student and school workers would have an increased chance that items would be stolen from their vehicles or the theft of their automobile when the criminals realize that the cars parked around the school would be left for at least 8 hours. The worst would be children used as a shield for a fleeing criminal. The claim has been made that the only choice for the city council has is to change the zoning or let the sales tax money go to Palmdale. The decent choice is to sacrifice the money for the health and safety of the children. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Chantel Scott.
Hi. At the last council meeting, I spoke on the 2030 general plan and how a park across from the Quartz Hill High School would fit in well with the general plan and benefit both the high school and surrounding neighborhood. A park in combination with the high school could be used to create recreational opportunities for the community and at the same time provide educational and training opportunities for students. For example, classes for parents and or toddlers could be partly staffed by students interested in preschool and teaching careers. And also the park would create the close-knit communities instead of a Walmart. The only response to my suggestion was a lecture on declining city revenues and how building 2 commercial supercenters across from the Quartz Hill High School would bring in money. Then I read in the AV Press that the city spent $9.9 million buying foreclosure homes. If the city could spend so much when it has budget problems, why can't the city spend a little more and buy back the land across from the high school so the developer can purchase some land somewhere else in Lancaster for the supercenter, and we could have a park? No other high school in Antelope Valley has a supercenter across the street, let alone two. Why does Quartz Hill High School have to pay the price for commercial centers when the school did not create the problem? Aren't we more important than money? After all, we are the future taxpayers, citizens, and community leaders.
Chantel, just so I could answer your question of why we can't, the money that was said in the newspaper, okay, that's money that comes out of a special pot that we can't spend on anything except specific things. We'd love to take that money and spend it in other ways, but the state of California doesn't allow us to, so that's why we can't on that particular money. But otherwise, it would be nice to build a park with it. So, thank you. Thomas Coiter? It's C-O, it looks like a Y-I-E.
Coyle, sir.
Coyle, okay.
Yes, sir. Good evening to everyone here. Basically, what I've come before you, gentlemen, ladies, is I'm a medical marijuana patient, and I believe that we need to have dispensaries up here, just like the valley, down the valley. They got them everywhere. People can get their medicine when they need it, no problem. You guys can run to CVS, Rite Aid, Walgreens, get the pills you need, like that. For us medical marijuana patients up here, we can't do that. We got to drive over 65 miles away, spend a lot of money in gas just to go get our medicines and come on back. And it's unfair, really, I mean, because, it's recognized by the state of California as being a medicinal purpose. And just like any other medicine out there, I think it should be easily accessed for the patients that are in well of need of it. So basically what I'm here for is to basically get something started to where we can go ahead and get all these patients that are here and the patients that aren't here, as I speak for them all, and let's get us some help up here to where we don't have to go over 65 miles to go get our medicine. I just think it's unfair. It's really time, a time-consuming option for me. It's kind of unfair. Anybody can go to CVS and get their pills. And because marijuana has a bad rap, well, I mean, it's the only non-lethal medication out there that's never killed anybody, and you could never die from it. People have died from pills, died from, other stuff. I mean, there's worse side effects for ibuprofens than anything else. Before I used to suffer from nothing. I suffered from chronic pain in my back and my joints. And I was prescribed ibuprofens, 800s for it. Well, those chewed up my stomach and my liver, and now I'm taking 5 more medications just for taking one of these medications here. If I'd learned about medical marijuana back in the day, I wouldn't be suffering from the 7 medical conditions I have now versus the one I started with. So basically, it's just my point. We need to get some help up here for the medical patients, and this, whatever I can do to help get started, whoever I can talk to, I really like to do it. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Coyle, would you have Mr. Coyle?
Oh, I'm sorry.
You don't like the distance you have to drive to get medical marijuana. Would you have a problem if you had to get it, say, from an established pharmacy, someone who already dispenses pharmaceutical drugs? Would that be an issue for you? Or
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. I'm sorry.
For instance, if an existing pharmacy were to dispense medical marijuana, would that be okay with you? Or
as long as I could get it, yeah. As long as our patients can get their medicine, that's what matters here. But whether I don't think that you're ever going to see a CVS distributing medical marijuana. That's why we have dispensaries.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Jason Zink.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, Council. Just one comment on the park situation. I just thought that maybe you should have suggested that there would be something in there for the Raw family at that park.
Sure. You can't talk about that right now.
I know,
This is for
but I saw the look in their eyes, and I didn't like it.
Well, let's get to your
Okay.
agenda.
The main thing I'm here for is the Endeavor Middle School on 45th and Avenue K. There's no sidewalks going to the school. My nephew was hit by a car. Although he wasn't hurt, it was a hit and run. And I've come to the council 6 months ago to talk about putting a temporary asphalt sidewalk to that school, since the school district makes your kids walk 2 miles to go to the school. And I think it's just common sense. If public safety is your number one thing, then kids got to be it, and safely to go to their school. Also, Hall Park doesn't have an asphalt sidewalk, so that's something else. Eyesores. The state prison, why the city of Lancaster hasn't put some kind of like white rail fencing, some trees and shrubs around that thing, so it looks a little bit more presentable to the community and doesn't devalue the homes surrounding it, I don't understand that. Eyesore on J, right past 10th Street West to Kingtree. That's an old housing tract. That wall's been an eyesore for 20 years that I know of. Why hasn't you guys done something about that? On Avenue K, between Division and 7th Street East, an old housing tract. I think it's great what you guys are doing with the Trin track, Dorado track, but this is something that needs to be done now for when people come to visit Lancaster, that it makes a good impression. You drive to the City Hall here, you got 2 dead trees on the street here, and then that building across the street, the paint's falling off of it. You guys, it's little stuff, but it means a lot, right? And I also think that you guys should put in carports with solar panels on top to kind of promote the solar ideas out here. There's grants for that, and it looks good. The college is down in, I think Pierce College has it, and it looks really awesome. And I also think you should put temporary white rail fencing all through the city and use youth programs and get grant money to put that in, because it looks ghetto, and then you go past it, and then you got good housing tracts. You guys are doing an excellent job compared to the city of Palmdale. With they have no landscaping. You guys are blowing Palmdale away as far as visual, but you can do better. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Well, it seems like you have a laundry list of ideas. I see you have an email. Please just email me from the city's website.
Okay.
Myself personally, and I'll refer to the city manager to look at.
Okay. But I do hope fully, Mr. Smith, that you do call the family up and tell them that they will be part of that park in some fashion.
We already told them they are part of the park.
I know you said it, but it wasn't in the motion. That's all.
David Castillo? Castro.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and council members. Just like to speak on the behalf of the medical marijuana patients. You know, it's like all these people, you know, you have people who have these terminally ill diseases, and like me, I'm a student, striving musician, and I suffer from seizures, so I take medical marijuana to combat the side effects, because any other medicine I take, you know, has more side effects. When I take more antibiotics, it's more side effects. But when I take medical marijuana, it truly helps me in the, you know, in the way that's not truly harmful to me, you know. So I believe that, you know, all the people who are terminally ill and who have it worse off than me truly need it more than I do. But, you know, I just want to speak out for them. And anyway, like say, I have to go down to the valley to get my medical marijuana, to where I would like to stimulate the Lancaster economy by putting my money back into the city, because, you know, I'm growing patriotism towards the city. So I would like to put the money back towards the city as opposed to giving it to San Fernando or giving it to North Hollywood, you know. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
You use the term medical marijuana. How is that different from any other marijuana?
Well, medical marijuana is strictly used for people who have...
I mean, where does it come from? What's different than what you buy on the street corner?
With medical marijuana, at least it's in a controlled environment, and the people have already had doctors tell them and prescribe it to them for medical use, so that's what makes it different than...
Well, that's about they get a prescription for it, but what's different about the dope itself? You say...
Yeah, it has a lot less of the side effects, right? And nobody has ever overdosed on marijuana. Ever, okay? People have overdosed on sleeping pills, which they prescribe medical marijuana for people who have sleep disorders, anxiety disorders, all that.
Let's set that aside. What's the difference between medical marijuana and anything you buy on the street?
Well, there isn't really much different besides
Thank
it's
you.
in a
That's the
controlled
answer I was
environment.
looking for.
Okay, hey. You don't have a green card in. Sorry. No talking.
But I mean,
Okay? Not from the audience, please.
Yeah, I believe it's to have a controlled environment where people who are truly sick and who really need it, just like any other antibiotic you get in a store, it can be, you know what I'm saying? It can be used just to help people to better, So that's all.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, we have no more speakers cards for non-agenda items. No, you turned yours in after the speaking started. Mr. Pelka? No. No. I'm not going to get into discussion about it. I know the newspaper has disagreed with us. Their attorney from San Francisco. But a council and a legislative body can regulate the way that the speaker cards are sent in and everything. So I'm not going to get into it right now. But that's
Vice Mayor
the policy.
Smith, I think
Yes.
Ms. Gloss believes she turned one in ahead of time. I don't know if we...
I had your one in. Is this the one that we can't read? What street do you live on? No, you wrote it here on the card. Do you live on Galander or Galant? Is that your card?
Yes.
Well, that's why I called you, but we just didn't know what your name was because we couldn't even read your writing or the name of the street. So go ahead.
All right. I prepared this for the mayor because he has an idea that there is no undeveloped land on the west side. And this shows you, here's the high school, here's the junior high school, right over here. Here's where the proposed, or the super Target is, and the proposed Walmart. Look at all this land. All this land is undeveloped Lancaster land. If you moved these shopping centers to anywhere else but across the street from Courtsville High School, the city would still get sales tax revenue. You would still have the jobs. And you would not be, as the mayor said tonight, that he doesn't like taking something away. Well, taking away the residential zoning to this is taking something away from the people who bought their homes here, believing they were living in a residential neighborhood. The centers can be moved across from the prison, nobody would object, or to the corner of 70th and K, which is right here. As you can see, it's very vacant, and there is a 1,594 housing tract planned for this location. Building the commercial before the homes allows a potential homeowners the choice to buy a home as close to the commercial as they please. Nobody is saying the two property owners can't develop on their land so long as they do it within their current zone limitations. Lane Ranch can build a mix of commercial business and homes on their portion of the land that is zoned for it, but they shouldn't be able to build a vast supercenter requiring a zone change. Walmart bought their land knowing it was zoned residential, so let them build homes or sell it to somebody who will. And the last point I would like to ask the mayor, who turned around and left, is since there's only one Costco in the Antelope Valley and many Walmarts, when is he going to start buying his clothes at Walmart?
Thank you. That's the last speaker's card. Council reports. Do we have any reports from any meetings or any travel on city business? Any council or agencies' comments or agenda items that want to be placed on next meeting? None. That being the case, we're adjourned until May 26, 2009 at 6 p.m. Thank you.